open air. Different shape today, I feel, Kathleen.
Yeah, definitely. I think they were expecting a breeze to come more from the south. We definitely have some lighter breeze than they started off with yesterday, but I think with after 4 races yesterday, they're welcoming also, again, a lighter breeze.
Peter?
Well, we're just over halfway through the regatta in terms of this first phase. 5 races to go, we've done 6. So just watch again with this condition change, a little bit of a shuffle of the points.
Okay, so 2 more days in that round robin scenario. Now, earlier, our lovely Helen Bulkley was down on the dockside before all these guys launched, and she was having a good chat with the sailors about the day to come.
The race win yesterday was definitely great. We had a super start. Went to the left side, and then we even overtook 1 or 2 guys, and then as soon as we led from middle of the second upwind, it was a really enjoyable ride downwind to the finish line.
And what was it like as the wind was getting slightly lighter, because we've got less wind today? Is it harder?
So remember, back to studio and then highlights from yesterday.
In the light wind, only
Ready?
1 session yet, so it's a lot more tactical, obviously, than in the stronger breeze. To be honest, I would like to go downwind in a big more breeze and nicer waves so that we can surf the boat. But still, yesterday was good, so hopefully today is good as well, yeah.
And what have you learned so far? Because you're new to the Star class. What are you learning sailing with everyone out there?
I mean, it's very, very similar to laser sailing. Obviously, the boat is different and the competitors I race against are very different. But how you go into a race, how you do the starts, how slow you are in the text and the boat speed, it's very similar to laser sailing. So basically I'm trying to do the job I'm used to do. That definitely helps.
Yeah, so Steve and I had a great day yesterday, and we've moved up from 16th to 8th overall. We had 4 quite good races, 2 standout ones. We had a 5th and a 2nd, so that was really good. And we were in the hunt for winning the last one, but then the other guys showed their experience. But yeah, we're really happy with our day.
And yeah, when you're talking about the experience, I remember that we could see you, and I thought you were going to take it. But was it Kayard that beat you in that one?
Yeah, Kayard went the other way to us up the beat and came in. There was a bit of a cloud came under, and I was worried about getting stuck under it, and they went for it, and then a big right shift came in. So yeah, they sailed a really good beat.
So obviously learning lots. Can you tell me what you're learning out there? Because relatively new to this class, but you've had a huge introduction this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say I don't really have much of a clue what I'm doing in the back of a Star, but if you take it down to racing and try and keep it simple, we seem to be doing quite well, and Steve's doing a pretty good job of making sure that we're not messing up too much on the sailing a Star bit here and there. But yeah, when it comes down to boat handling and changing from the upwind to the downwind, we definitely lose out quite a lot then, but give us a little bit of space, and once we're settled, we seem to be doing okay.
So you and Steve getting on well?
Yeah, we're having a wicked time. I think it'd be impossible not to get on with Steve, but yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we were able to do good comebacks and stuff, just keeping cool and picking people off here and there.
Great celebration when you were crossing the line. It means a lot to you guys. How did it feel when you're getting those bullets?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not the favorite here. I've been in this thing, this is my 5th time, and it's a very tough competition, and we're battling a little bit downwind, and I think we're slowly making some headway there and able to hold our own a little better. So more important than any one race's results, it's just how we're progressing and how competitive we are, and we feel good about that. So yeah, we're celebrating the good moments.
It's very important to keep your nose clean, isn't it? Because it's all about getting into that top 10. So when you go out in the mornings, what's your briefing to make sure you do that?
Well, we just try to we go out early. If you might have noticed, we're always the first boat out. We like to get out early and not be rushed, and check out the race course pretty thoroughly. And you just have to play the risk factor in each individual situation and race. Of course, there's a lot of action at the windward mark, so you try to keep clean there. But if you get out to the starboard ley line too soon, you're going to pay a lot for that too. So yeah, as I said, you just have to judge every situation as it comes.
Yesterday we had a good day. I mean, the condition yesterday was a little bit less tough than the day before, so we had no problem. We were talking the night before about what we did wrong in the first day, and we tried to work on our mistakes. So we had good starts, and this makes us easier in the top of the fleet because we're quite confident with our speed, and if you have a good start and you have good speed, then it's quite easy to be in the top 5, 6, 7. Then you work out to do the best you can. And yesterday we had definitely a good day. We were quite happy yesterday night.
I'm sure you were very happy. What have you learnt out on the race course with the way the wind is, and what are you planning for
Well,
day
the wind
three?
is kind of regular. I mean, here is jumping back and forth the whole day. I mean, it's shifting, but not much, and it's periodic, and I mean, it was fun, and it was quite easy. I mean, yesterday we had a condition that we know very well because it's almost the Mediterranean condition. I mean, not so high waves, and the breeze was steady. It was great fun.
Frank, in terms of moving up the leaderboard, yesterday you went from 24th to you're in 16th today. You've got to be happy with that result.
Yeah. I am very happy to be in the middle of the fleet, and it's always better to go in this side than in the other side. Yesterday was lighter and was easier for us. We find more speed, and for sure at the end the race is easier also. And I hope today will be the same because it's light also. So we can be more confident.
And what's your plan to continue moving upwards?
Yeah, for sure, if we can do that. But it's harder and harder to move forward. But be consistent in the tens will be very nice.
It's fantastic. Like, we get to sail against all of our heroes of the sport, plus all of the people I used to sail against in the star class. But it's great having the young guys along, having Ben along, having people like Philip Buell here, who are winning or almost winning races. And the young guys, they've got no fear, and they do this day in, day out in their own boats. And it's good to see them, you know, really taking the bit between their teeth and racing hard when they're out there.
And obviously, with all your experience, there's a bit of sort of teaching role, or not, or is it all just happening by itself?
We try and keep it simple, so we've set up the boat to the kind of base numbers that I've had for many years. And the stuff we do around the racetrack, we try and keep it as simple as we can, because the more complicated we make it, the more likely we are to mess it up. So it's working out so far.
And it's obviously going the right direction. You had a second yesterday, and it's pushed you right up the leaderboard.
Yes, it was great. Ben got off the start line really well yesterday. We changed our starting tactics after the middle two races, which didn't really go well for us. The starts didn't go well. The races were good, but the starts were pretty average. We started down towards the pin and got sucked into a bit of a vacuum and couldn't get out of it, but just let ourselves free at the boat end, and it was relatively straightforward from there for us. Ben was putting the tacks at the right times. He's got a really good feel for the boat and a really good sense of what the wind's about to do. You know, that's all his experience in the NACRA really starting to show through. So his racing has been fantastic out there.
Do you have to keep an eye on anyone out there, or is it just get as high as you can to stay in that top 10 for the end of the week?
The only people we keep an eye on is the 24 other boats that are trying to beat us. I mean, there isn't any chumps. Everybody's got medals, world championships, titles of all descriptions. So, you know, we're happy. Anybody we can beat, we're happy. You know, if we can put 20 boats behind us in a race, we're more than happy. So, I mean, and everyone's got the same feeling. It's a lot of respect out there on the race course, but everybody's trying to beat each other.
Well, a good roundup of interviews from the sailors. Talking a lot about yesterday, so why don't we have a little flavour of the action? We had 4 big racing races yesterday. Let's check out some of the highlights from that.
Day 2 of the Star Sailors League Finals. An earlier start and the competitors were down on the dock first thing, ready for battle.
We have a little bit lighter today. You know, lighter means the level of the fleet will be more even, and it's more tactical race. Really looking forward to see, let's say, a more technical racing today.
Well, race 3, clean start. Kayard round the top mark, just ahead of Negri and Lambertenghi. Well, drama at the top mark. It looks like the Norwegian-American duo Melleby-Revkin stuck on that top mark. Argentinian Facundo Aletas hammering downwind. Bottom gate split. Kayard, Negri going different directions up to the top mark. Kayard ahead, Negri behind. A bullet for Paul Kayard with Phil Trinter. Well, controversy race number 4, 3 boats. OCS over the line. They're going to be disqualified. Torben Grail, Freddie Luth, and Kuznirovic and Jitsky, the Poles, are going to get flicked from race number 4. Mendelblatt and Fati clean heels to the rest of the fleet there, crossing the line to win race number 4. Oh, look at that start line, race number 5. How evenly split is that fleet? That is perfection in a start line. Well, look at that, the 2 Italian boats in the same picture. Bruni and Negri. Negri and Lambertenghi round, Bruni just behind. Now it's the youngster Philip Buhl with Marcus Coy in the lead, just poking ahead of the Brazilians. But it's drama at the bottom mark again. Ivan Melleby from Norway in trouble, smashing into somebody, penalties all round. And it's victory for Buhl and Coy, race number 5. Well, how accurate is that for time on distance for the start of race number 6? Well, at the top mark, KR just ahead of the Brit Ben Saxton, sailing the Star for the first time. The Italian Navy in there, but Paul Kayard really does have a turn of speed today. What a victory, second bullet of the day.
And that wraps it up for day 2, and we still have the same leaders overall with the Brazilians Robert Scheidt and Henry Boning, and an American 2-3 with Mendelblatt and Feiti, and Paul Kayard and Phil Trinter.
It was a very good day. I think we managed to be consistent, which was hard because the breeze was kind of light, and was the cloud on the right side was always tempting to come in, but it never really came until the last race. So it was quite difficult to read the conditions. So we're quite glad with the way we approached the day and how consistent we sailed.
Well, there's Robert Scheidt, the Brazilian champ with his 5 Olympic medals, and he is a class act, Kathleen. Just his body language around the club and the dinghy park, the boat park, he means business. He's here to win. There's no question about it.
Yeah, he's here to win, but when you watch him, he's actually very relaxed, very calm. He doesn't get caught up in a lot of conversation. We see him in the early mornings taking a swim in the water, and he's always focused, and there's not a lot of chit-chat with the other sailors, and he has a nice relaxed way about him, which I think translates well when he goes out to the race course. Some people get excited in the morning, and that's the way that they perform well. I think with Robert, it's a quiet focus, and he's very confident in his sailing. We haven't seen him win a race yet, and but we see him sailing very consistently at the top without mistakes, major mistakes. And yesterday we saw him sailing very fast, sometimes not always on the favorite tack. And when you see somebody sailing not on the favorite tack but still getting ahead of the fleet, you know he's got speed. So Robert has that quiet confidence, and I think he's got success here because of it.
And Peter, you flagged correctly, I believe, Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fetti, the American duo who've won this championship twice. They come here as the defending champions. They've got a lot on, because in my mind, and I was chatting to some of the sailors on the boat on our little commute from the hotel to the yacht club, a marvellous way to get to work. They're saying this is just off the scale top fleet, top ranking fleet, and we saw on those start lines pretty much that start level there, time on distance, they were pin sharp on that start line. So I think this is going to be a tough one for Mark Mendelblatt and Brian to claim for a third time.
It's such a tough field, but when you look at their track record and the way you're talking about Robert Scheidt, I think Mark is very strategic in terms of the way he operates on the course. What the two crews have in common, along with Paul Kayard in my mind, is they're fast. So when they get a little bit compromised and you bow back or you need to make 3 or 4 meters, those 3 top crews in my mind have a little edge, and we've seen they've had that wonderful ability when they're stuck back a little bit, they can recover. They may not win the race, but their average scores are quite high. Very rarely are the 3 top crews out of the top 10. So Mark Mendelblatt, for me, still is one of the benchmark crews. And Digby's, I only made that comment because, I read the press release before, and if you've won it twice already, he feels very comfortable at this venue.
Well, that's statistics, and it's fair play. Now let's take a little virtual fly out and get some geography as to where we are. We're in the beautiful Bahamas. We're on Nassau, New Providence Island, and we can virtually fly out to the racetrack. So that is New Providence Island, and we're flying eastwards right over Nassau, the capital of the Bahamas, the cruise ship terminals, the channel there between the little island on where all the hotels are. And here is our racetrack to the eastern side in Montague Bay. The race committee has confirmed that it is a standard windward leeward course, as we've been doing pretty much at every Star Sailors final so far. That nice one, they're flying off into the distance there. But it's a 4-leg event, upwind, downwind to finish. Now, on the water, on our TV catamaran, who are giving us these amazing pictures, and Lovely coverage of the racing. We have none other than Shirley Robertson, two-time Olympic gold medalist, OBE, the presenter of CNN Mainsails, now has a good media career, and it's a real honour for us to have Shirley out there. And I believe she is with James Boyd, top sailing journalist. Shirley and James, welcome. We've been watching the highlights from yesterday. What are your thoughts from the racing so far?
Oh, Digby, what a lovely introduction. Thank you very much. As you can see, it is another day in paradise. I think I may never leave the Bahamas. It is absolutely super. I think today is going to be very different, even though it kind of looks the same. The wind is further right. It's fluffier than normal. There's clouds. We're not going to see the same left-hand track that we saw the other days. And, you know, in my opinion, that's an opportunity really for the rookies just to... I suppose just to put their mark on that top 10, and today is really pivotal, and I'm sure, you know, James agrees with me in terms of, you know, these 11 races, getting into that final on Saturday, today has to count.
Yes, I think they're going to be looking very, very clear. They're going to be doing the maths very, very carefully of the course of today, and just trying to make sure they've got enough points on the board to make that vital step. And it's also going to be obviously very interesting to see who actually comes out on top, because they obviously leapfrog straight into the semi-finals and finals, which is just another sort of interesting aspect of this competition.
Like me, it's your first time here. What's your general thoughts on on the competition, and you know, how much have you enjoyed watching it from the perfect spot on the film cap?
Well, firstly, it's been fantastic to be in the Bahamas in the middle of December, because it's obviously a little bit colder in London at the moment. But the lineup of sailors here is, I was just sort of thinking about it. I mean, I think you'll probably be hard pressed to get this number of Olympic medalists at an America's Cup, for example. And we've got 3 Volvo Ocean Race winning skippers. We've got this incredible French competition, as we've all been talking about, between Loic Perron and Frank Camas, both of whom have won the Jules Verne Trophy. And in addition to that, we've got all these youngsters. We've got people like, I was almost going to say Paul Goodison, but we've got people like Philippe Gould and Ben Saxton. They're the next generation coming up, and they're obviously 2 of the most talented sailors of their generation. So I mean, I know, having spoken to both of them, it's they're incredibly enthusiastic about just being here and just getting to sort of sail. You cannot imagine what it means to someone like Ben Saxton to sort of finish second in a race with people like Robert Scheidt behind him. It's incredible.
To use one of Stevie Mitchell's words, there is no chumps here, is there? And you're absolutely right. When I got on the boat, particularly with Philip Bull yesterday, I mean, I've not seen anyone more chuffed ever, I think. He was so delighted to be leading this calibre of fleet.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And also, I mean, I think it's, the starboat is a sort of great level. I mean, obviously we've got people who, have been sailing the boat for decades, the Kales of this world and people like that. A lot of the new guys who come into it have been sort of set up with someone who like Ben Saxton and Stevie Mitchell. Stevie is obviously a past world champion, and it seems that he can Ben can use his helming skills, which he's used in boats like the 417 and Accra, and to get up to speed incredibly quickly on the Star. So I mean, it's a really good sort of vehicle to test the skill of all the sailors.
I think I've also been impressed by how serious perhaps some of the older sailors in the fleet are taking it. Paul Caillard, he's been training all year for this, and we see him, he leaves the dock first every morning. It means a lot, and you could tell yesterday how pleased he was to, at the age of 58, to still be dominating this fleet.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, and it's great to be able to see such. I mean, that's a great thing about sport sailing generally, is that, and I suppose the starboat as well. That you can have such a huge sort of variety of ages. You've got the Philip Bulls and Ben Saxton, who are 27, and then you've got Caillard and Augie Diaz and people like that at the opposite end of the fleet.
Well, thanks, James. We can hear some horns going off on the committee boat. So not long now until the action, and we're certainly looking forward to it here on the boat.
Well, thank you, Shirley and James out there getting enthusiastic and winding themselves up. I believe that we will have 2 to 3 races. They've gone a little bit further out on Montague Bay. The wind is a little fluffier, as Shirley says, so trickier conditions, probably giving an advantage for some of the lighter helmsmen, such as Frank Camas. He thinks he's into a good position today, and he's getting better and better and better. Never sailed the Start before, so every day he's out there, he's doubling his and tripling his experience on this boat. We are in the 4-minute zone to the start of our race today. It's going to be race number 7. And we're in the round robin phase of the Star Sailors League final. 4 days where all 25 teams race against each other. And then on Saturday, they go into that big day. It's like the Wimbledon final with the quarterfinals with 9 boats, the semi-finals with 7, and the finals with 4 boats. That is the moment. But right now there's jeopardy at stake because these guys, Peter, are now fighting for survival.
What was interesting this morning, I think for maybe the first time, I've seen the sailors looking at their points on the notice board. First 2 days you just get out, try and be consistent and accumulate to be in that top 10. Now, especially today, you know, you want to have a strong day today to make sure that you're in a good position tomorrow to get into that top 11. So I think the game changes today. There's the obviously physical changes on the water with the wind is a lot more to the right. What is that going to do to the geometry of the race course? Will it be left-hand favoured still? So that's something to look out for.
Well, we can see the committee boat, live shots of the committee boat, and this is the virtual, the mathematical view from our bird's eye view looking down. Peter, that mathematical start line to the top mark looks fairly skewed to me. I wonder if you could explain what that means.
Well, what the race management or the principal race officer is always trying to do is to lay the start line at 90 degrees to the wind direction that they have, and they might be taking readings at the top mark, but readings obviously at the committee boat. That would indicate to me that maybe he's getting wind more to the left than perhaps the data that we're getting.
Well, sometimes the race committee, if they're having problems with boats piling up at the pin end, will slightly favor the right-hand side of the starting line at the boat, just kind of as a fleet management tool. And we saw a lot of people heading towards the pin end yesterday, and that could be one of the reasons for the skewing of the race course as well.
Sorry, you can actually see it there if you look at where the mark is, and you look at the wind angle onto the flags. Go at 90 degrees to the flags, and that's where the start line should be. Yep. So it's a good, 5 or 6 lengths. The pin end is 5 or 6 lengths downwind of 90 degrees to the wind.
So dramatic change from the first 6 races, the race management. I saw Torben Grail, who was OCS'd yesterday. He was black flagged for being over the line, not happy. He was convinced that he was behind the line, is, being Torben Grail, another 5-time Olympic champion and round the world winner, was like, charging around the place, looking pretty fearsome. So go ahead, Peter.
Diggers look for a big pile up at the windward end around the committee boat. And what's interesting, if behind the and the boats cannot come inside the, we're not going to quite get it, but hanging off the back of the committee boat there is a little marker buoy which you're not allowed to come inside.
Okay. So our TV cat is just getting itself into position. We're 20 seconds to go. Little bit of breeze out there, nice breeze. We'll hear some audio from the committee boat. We'll kind of hear it from our TV cat, the countdown. When that little flag, the red star comes down, that's it, the start. Ooh, they are close. Oh, general recall. Shirley, I could kind of see that happening, in truth. There were so many boats so near that line. General recall, Shirley. What's your take on that one?
Yeah, I mean, we could see it happening here too. They're all lining up very early. The start line's really skewed, and it's slack tide now as well. And I think there's going to be more of an emphasis to the right-hand side than we've ever seen before. So, they're not fighting for the pin like they have been the last 2 days. And so, I suspect the race committee now will even up the line a little bit. I mean, it's a good sort of 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 degrees bias towards the committee boat at the moment. So hopefully he'll relay. I'd be disappointed maybe if he put the black flag up, because that was not, that's not the competitor's fault. The line wasn't quite right for the wind direction.
Okay. Well, we could see that on Virtual Eye super clear, looking from the bird's eye view. Is this a replay of the start? Let's have a little look at this. No, okay, it's not. Okay, in vision, yes, a replay of the start. Marvellous. So there we go. There's still a few seconds to go. You see the bulge in the middle of that line. They're already over the line, and now the flag comes down. So that's, I would say, a third of the fleet, Peter, over that start line on the gun, and you can't do individual recalls in that circumstance.
No, and the reason being, if the principal race officer can identify the boats, he will, and he'll ping them like we saw yesterday. If it is a blanket going over the line, it is a general recall, and as Shirley's just pointed out, I'm sure there'll be a reset just to even up the line a little bit more.
Now, Shirley mentioned the black flag, and as sailors and all our viewers will probably know, the black flag is the kind of ultimate recourse for the race officer. So that if they fly the black flag, it means if you're over the line minute early, you're out of the race, you're disqualified. But there's another option, a new, relatively new option, the U flag. Kathleen, I wonder if you can explain what the U flag means.
The U flag is very similar to the black flag, but if the race is restarted, those people who were black flagged or over at the start have the opportunity to race again.
Okay.
So it's a more kinder, gentler black flag.
Less draconian.
Black flag's brutal. You're gone. You're out.
Yeah.
And even if there's a general recall, I like the U flag. I think it's a good addition to the toolbox for the principal race officer. It's
well, that was an innovation by World Sailing a few years back, and we very may well see that in action. It's checkered flag, red and white checkered flag. So, am I right? You're looking at me weirdly, Kathleen.
You know, I see it all the time. I just get so used to it being there, I forget.
It's got to be the red and white. So anyway, that's an option. We'll see what's going to happen. And here we're on with our youngster Philip Buell, the laser sailor, who's gunning for the Tokyo Olympics, and he's taking a little time out of his Olympic training campaign, racing with one of the best star crews in the world, Marcus Coy. We see Marcus there. Marcus is about 10 foot tall and 5 foot wide. He's a giant physically as a man, but an extremely capable crew and instructor.
What's interesting about Philip Buell is he actually doesn't come from the power base of German yachting, which is in the north, up around Kiel. He's actually from the Bavarian Alps, and he started off on a little lake with his dad teaching him, and he really comes from a slightly different, a different area of Germany, and he represents German Olympic sailors to the German Federation, so he takes on a bit of responsibility there as well, but he's one of the guys to watch in the future.
Well, I had the pleasure of waiting for our little commuter ferry this morning and had a little chat with Philip, and we were talking about German Olympic sailing in general, and he tells me that the last big medalist from the German Olympics was some 30 years ago. Long time.
That was Jochen Schumann, of course, and so they really have been in a bit of a void, and I think Philip Buell, if Germany are going to get an Olympic medal at the next Olympics in Tokyo in 2020, he would be their hope.
Well, they also had the famous star sailor Alexander Hagen, who was in the late 70s, early 80s. He actually participated in a Grand Slam event in Hamburg just a couple of years ago. But they are big shoes to fill with Joachim Schumann and a star sailor like Hagen.
Yeah, but looking at Philip Buell, I mean, he's certainly, but he's picked a really tough class, the laser class in terms of Olympic medals. No, it doesn't come any harder than that one. But one to watch out for, and I wish him well.
I agree with you. Here's this is interesting because today, going into race 7, Philip Buell with Marcus Coy is in 6th overall position. Their results are over the 7 races. They had a 6th, an 11th, an 8th, 11th, a 1st, a bullet yesterday, and a 9th, which is pretty damn good. They have discarded one 11th place because they have a discard now on the rankings. So he's 6th overall, and you know, if you look at the guys further in the second half of the fleet, he is smashing it over some people who have been sailing stars for 10, 15, 20 years, which is remarkable, I think. And I mentioned in our little intro that another VIP guest, Paul Goodison, another laser sailor, in fact the laser gold medalist and 2-time Moth world champ, he's just above Philip in 5th. Paul Goodison sailing with Fritjof Clean, and then in 8th Ben Saxton, the NACRA Olympic class sailor, sailing with Stevie Mitchell in 8th. So 3 of the VIP guests in that top 10, and to explain that if you're just joining the Star Sailors League for the first time, the Star Sailors themselves qualify for this regatta, the finals, during the year in all their championships around the world. Top 10 get invited here, and 13, 14, 15 or so are VIP guests who they put with a very experienced Star crew to kind of level the playing field. And very unusual class, very unusual scenario, and a real treat for sailing fans of any discipline to the Star Sailors League. So we're about 3 minutes to go, Pete.
It's brutal, black flag. So you can see it flying there, second from the left. I think that's pretty tough because actually the start, for me, the race management, I've been very complimentary. The setup of the start line was always going to be problematic. To now go straight to a black flag for this one. So what that's going to mean, if anyone's over early, they are finished from this race. They will be disqualified.
And you can see the 110, it's on a whiteboard just beneath the sail there in bow 2. And that indicates the compass heading for the windward mark. So it's at 110 degrees. And when our race committee came out here earlier today, it was at 105 degrees. So we have already had a 5-degree shift towards the right this morning, which is why the sailors were favoring the right-hand side of the starting line.
So 90 degrees due east, 110, a few clicks round. So it's a
different picture. It's a different picture again, and we've talked a lot about the left hand upwind and the right hand downwind. That may not be the case. I assume it's pretty slack tide. We haven't got a lot of flow at the moment. Later on it will build as we just come up to the 2-minute signal.
And this breeze direction is pretty rare for Nassau. We were speaking to Jimmy Lowe, who's out there on our windward mark boat, and they rarely have this breeze direction. So for our veteran Star sailors and other sailors who've come to race in Nassau, this is an entirely new race course for them, which will mix it up.
Kathleen, how many times have you gone to a regatta? Oh, it's never like this. These are unusual conditions.
Always.
Never like this. So we have a little bit of a different setup in terms of wind direction, and that will create opportunities for people, and I think that's what we need to really zero in on in today's racing with the breeze out of 110.
Well, when that black flag comes down, that means 1 minute to start. 1 minute to start. So we're in fully into sequence. Our TV Cat is poised to get the black flag coming down, and then we'll see how conservative this fleet takes the start of race number 7 with this draconian measure in place.
As we've seen before, you cannot afford to be conservative. If you're bow back and someone rolls you, you're in trouble. And I think what you're going to see, though, is probably boats trying to stack up maybe in the top third of the line or towards the committee boat end. But you'll see people trying to get covered up by a windward boat to protect them. And then as the gun goes, shoot forward and take advantage.
Well, Shirley Robertson out there, you're in the same spot as this camera that we're looking at, just looking at the boats behind the committee boat. How does it look to you, Shirley?
Well, it looks a better lineup than we've seen before. I mean, I agree with Peter. It's slightly harsh to have that black flag, and you know it means a lot. You can't be getting disqualified at this stage in the regatta, but I think this might just about get off cleanly.
Well, come 8, 7. This is risky. We can see boats at the pin end getting pushed away, bearing away. There's somebody over, 2 boats over. Could be individual recalls. That was tough.
No individual recall under a black flag, so the moment of truth for the boats, if anyone has gone over, and it looked like, for me, boat 2 had its bow stuck out there, George Zabo.
89, perhaps?
No,
maybe not.
They won't know until the top mark, and of course it will be written on the dreaded notice board if anyone is over the line.
Shirley Robertson out there, we are pretty sure that 1 or 2 boats were over the line. Could you see that with your eyeball?
Yeah, I mean, we're slightly ahead of the line, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there was boats over. I'm not sure who yet, but there was a big bunch in that middle, and I think there might be the notice board of death up at the top mark for a few of them.
Oh, they're going to be gutted. whoever finds out. Kathleen.
Yeah, they talk about the notice board at the windward mark. When the sailors come around the windward mark, they have a board posting all the bow numbers that were over. But the problem is our racing is so tight here that when the boats arrive at the windward mark, there's so much chaos, and sometimes 3 boats are coming around at the same time. There's no time to look at that board, and that's what we saw yesterday with the 3 boats who were over the line early. They never saw the board, and they continued to race.
But I guess it's a bit different under a black flag, because when it's an individual recall, you're thinking, oh, it's not me. But under a black flag, you know that you're looking for it if you are on the line. The other boat that was bow out was Paul Goodison. When we go back to that shot, he looked bow forward.
Well, we are looking at Diego Negri, Sergio Lambertenghi, always in contention. They are 4th overall going into this race, number 7, and we're on board now with the Italians ducking under. Big Sergio diving under that very low boom, keeping his body weight fairly central. Different scenario. We've had a bit more breeze over the past 2 days, but now this is a real indication of the kind of wind strength out there. Diego, the helmsman at the back of the picture, he's got his main sheet in his teeth, just looking around, and they're taking it easy, taking it slow. We can lay up, we can stop talking for a minute. Let's just listen in to the onboard chat. If there is any. Taking it quiet, super quiet. Okay, fair enough, we get that. But that's the onboard view. And Sergio is now the number 1 SSL ranked crewman. We're getting a great view of his elbow. And Philip Buell now. Philip, the young laser sailor, sailing with Marcus Coy. Okay, everyone, let's just keep quiet for a moment. Dial that up.
Bisschen Wind kommt jetzt hier vor uns.
Jetzt mal der Wind, der kann auch auf jeden Fall da sein. Wenn wir ein bisschen Druck bekommen,
ja.
Okay, so Philip communicating with Marcus Coy. Marcus and Philip just having very calm chit-chats there, Peter. It's very calm.
Yeah, well, and it is, it's calm voices, calm conditions. It looks like it might only be 5 or 6 knots. That's Philip Buell, is who we're on board with. And the difference that we're seeing already as the boats have tacked over, and it's not just boats clearing the area, they're tending to wanting to push to the right hand side with this different wind direction, which has gone round, what, 30 degrees to the right. Philip Buell, runner up at the 2017 World Laser Championships.
Well, there they go, the German duo, Philip and Marcus. Philip Buell, Marcus Coy, gracefully heading up the right-hand side of the track. And Shirley, at the moment we don't have virtual eye. There's a tracker issue going on with us right now, but I can tell you that 4 boats were over the line. I'm going to read through them now. The race committee has just let us know on their WhatsApp group. So it is bow number 4, that is Augie Diaz and Austin Sperry. They're out of the picture. Bow number 9, Mateusz Kuznierovic, Dominik Zitsky. Oh dear, that's their second OCS. That's bad news for the Polish team. Bow number 2, which is, who is that?
Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fati.
No way. You sure?
No, it's George Szabo.
Oh,
it's George
sorry.
Szabo. Yeah. It is not Mark Mendelblatt. It is George Szabo and Eduardo Natucci. Mark Mendelblatt in the clear. He's good. And then it's bow 90, which is our Russian duo Georgy Sheduko and Alexander Zibin. So that's the black flag scenario, Shirley. 4 boats out, bows number 4, 9, 2 and 90. Peter, that's going to be an absolute shocker for those guys.
Oh, yes, and certainly for our Polish friends, that's going to be 2 starting penalties, and
they're also carrying a 20th
That's
place.
going to be costly in the overall picture.
Well, Shirley, we are looking at the German boat with Buell and Coy, bow 84. I guess you're right next to them. What can you tell us from the water?
Yeah, right next to them. I mean, it's such a different day today. it's very light. It's actually, you know, there's a bit of top as well, and you can see, you know, the helms aren't fully hiking, and you know, I'm interested to see which side pays off. I mean, to me at the moment, doesn't look that flash over this side. I think they're a bit short of pressure, but it's quite hard to tell from over here. I think it might be much more even than perhaps we've seen on the other days, where it was all about, you know, getting left, and the further left you went, the richer you got. So yeah, a very interesting beat. Philip right beside me, he's fast though. I don't know how far he's going. Here he goes, he's just tacking, but you know, he's right on the right hand edge of this course, and it'd be interesting to see how he does as he crosses back into the pack. Thanks,
Shirley. Well, interestingly, we can see from your shot with you in vision, we saw him tacking away there. So now Philip Buell, Marcus Coy back into the pack and beginning to engage the rest of the team. But Peter, he had a bit of clean air there.
Yeah, but I'm seeing he's taking a lot of transoms now as he goes back, and I think he's quite deep, in fact, Philip Buell. And I think it's the group out again on that left-hand side that you may well see, and Shirley talked about more pressure to the left, because it's always about a pressure wind direction game in relative to how far you got to go to the top mark.
Just while you were talking there, Peter, I was looking at the running leaderboard on the left-hand side, and they're climbing up there. They're in about sort of 10th, 9th, 8th. They're beginning to sort of move up, but top mathematically leading race number 7 is Diego Negri, Sergio Lambertenghi, the Italian guys. They've come in today in 4th overall. Their results so far in 6 races have been a 13th, which they've discarded, a 7th, a 2nd, a 13th, a 2nd, a 5th. That is consistent, Kathleen.
Yeah, this team they got off to a little bit slower start than they were looking for, and they had a little bit of a discussion on the way out to the race course yesterday, and after they had that discussion, Diego said everything went right. Now looking at the boat right here, you see today the crew is much further forward in the boat. They're trying to get a longer water line, and in the past when the breeze has come up, you've had the skipper and the crew very, very close together, and there you see poor my goodness, the crew slid into the boat. Thank you. You've seen Sergio slide into the boat, and it's really tough for these guys. There's not a lot of space down there, but they're really good crews. You'll see they're moving their way in and out with every change in the velocity of the breeze. Sitting there, but they're also watching every wave, looking for the puffs coming upwind. It's not very comfortable, but little millimetric moves make the boat go faster.
Well, there they go for a tack onto starboard. Now, interestingly, that Frank Camas and Mark Struby are up there in the leaderboard in contention in amongst that little group. I think furthest away from us through the Frank, the French icon of offshore sailing and multi-hull sailing, and he's won the Volvo Ocean race, leading Groupama, an extraordinary sailor. He's never sailed a star before, and he's just getting better day after day. Our little loving this, and Szabo and Natucci and Mendelblatt and Fati, real stalwarts of the star class.
We're back on board with Philip Buell, the young German, who had such a good day yesterday. He's currently down in about, what's that, 10th or 11th?
Here they go for attack. Looks like it. Or a warning.
No, it looks like they wanted a boat on port tack to cross them in the bow.
Got it.
Just telling. It was probably a very close crossing, and they called the boat on port tack to cross.
Okay, well, Philip Buell, Marcus Coy in about 10th, 11th spot right now. Not too bad. Meanwhile, Frank Camas is up there. And where is Frank now? In about 5th, 6th. There we go.
Yeah, and Frank, he's really, again, liking that left-hand side. And in fact, I think that it seems, we weren't sure going into this one, that the left is still quite strong. And it could well be more pressure out on that left-hand side. I'm sure when we go to Shirley, she'll comment on that. But looking at the leaderboard, two Brazilians in the lead, I think that's Obviously they like these conditions, but Frank Camas, he's just loving this.
Well, Frank, icon of our sport, of our offshore sailing sport. There he goes, bashing his way upwind with Mark Struby, the American, founder of the SSL. Now we do have virtual back, so we can just get a little bit of geography as to where we are on the course. There's Frank in the middle of the fleet, and we can virtually zoom out. The guys, it's Grail and Conchalves, I think, banging the corner furthest left. Negri Lambertenghi in the middle of the racetrack, or to the right hand side of the racetrack. Merkelbach Lopez, the good doctor, and the Brazilian there on the bottom. Letzer and Engelhard, that's a pity for them. They had such an amazing day yesterday, but at the back of the fleet right now.
Yeah, I think they didn't have a great start. They're a little squeezed at the boat end of the line. And all the sailors have been saying since yesterday that the key to even being in the top 5, the top 10, is getting off the starter line in a good lane. And here with the left being a little bit favored, starting in the back and going to the wrong side, that's going to hurt you.
Well, Pete, the two Brazilian brothers, Lars Grail and Torben Grail, going towards the beach pretty much.
They're back a little bit. They need to make up points, and this one's either going to be the
winner,
the penthouse or the outhouse.
Yeah.
You know, by taking really an extreme position of going tactically all the way to the left. You roll the dice, and it's either we're going to be winning this 1 and 2, but they've got a long way to come back to the bunch. And I sort of fancy it, I've got to say, the group that were more in the middle, and we'll just see as they come back how it works out. But they're certainly on the extreme left, Lars Grail.
Now you can see the crew Samuel there. He's doing a bit of an upwind rocking motion. He puts his body weight out and then brings it back in and out again. And this is something new. I haven't really seen this in the star class.
Okay. Let's just see if we can get both Brazilian boats in the same frame, because we can talk about the two brothers a little bit, Lars and Torben. Torben Grail, who is a 5-time Olympic medalist. Torben is also a winning Volvo Ocean Race skipper. We have 3 winning Volvo Ocean Race skippers, Paul Kayard, Frank Camas and Torben Grail. And Torben Grail grew up with Lars in Guanabara Bay in Rio, and they were racing their snipe together, I believe, and campaigning together. And when they race against each other on the track, there's no holds barred. They're pretty aggressive, but you know, it's marvelous to see two brothers at the top of this sport and in the same shot.
Two gentlemen of the sport, the Grail brothers, and that's the picture for the dining room wall, I think.
Yeah.
Here at the Star Sailors League Finals, the two Brazilians, two legends of the sport, Lars and Torben Grail. Lars is ahead of his brother.
And that's Xavier Rohart, the Frenchman, with Pierre-Alexis Ponceau also on that left-hand side, the extreme left. And as you say, Peter, this is either going to be a champagne moment for these guys or the outhouse. We will see. Camas and Struby, meanwhile, are in a very good position, just coming into the cone underneath the top mark. They've got options there of whether to carry on to the left-hand ley line or to tack across and cover some of the guys on the right.
I really like the positioning of Camas and Struby and Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fatih. I think Camas hasn't played the big card. He got a nice start, found a good lane, and obviously the speed's good of Frank Camas. You know, from day one where they were really battling and out of sync, and what in 3 days, how much do these incredible people learn? And Frank Camas now is right on the money. He's to go round and this
pianist. You know, he's an incredible piano player and also pretty much top-level mathematician.
He's playing the ivories very well here at the moment.
He is. Oh, Pete, glorious. No wonder you get all these Kiwi awards for media, social media. There we go. And it was the Hub Dr. Hubert Merkelbach through, Freddie Loof going through right there, Francesco Bruni, bow 97, bow 89, Paul Goodison in that mix. Oh, just being attacked by Lars Grail through there, and then George Seduko, they are out of it, so they're going to get flicked. And then our Polish Kuznidowicz, also black flag. We don't know if they're going to see these black flags on their board. Loic Piron also having a good day there. 93, Ben Saxton coming through. 84, Philip Buell on there, just almost neck and neck with Rohart and Ponceau. And then Oskari Muhonen, Johan Tillander coming through just ahead of Jonathan Laubert, Fabien Peak, and there Hamish Pepper and Craig Monk in the Kiwi-styled flagged boat with, I think, the Norwegian Ivan Melby, Josh Redford just behind them.
Now, I don't remember, where was Robert Scheidt in that rounding?
Haven't seen him.
Haven't seen him come around, so looking for Robert Scheidt might not be his best race.
Yeah,
so
I saw
far.
Lars Grail go around, and Robert, no, I didn't see Robert Scheidt, so Lars Grail did manage to slip back from that left. It looked a bit quiet there for a bit to get in that top 10. I haven't seen Robert Scheidt, and the other one that...
Okay, we see him on the running leaderboard on the left in a sort of 10th, 12th spot. We're on board with Diego Negri, Sergio Lambertenghi. We can hear a lot of noise. Let's listen up. Red flags going. There's protests. Here we go. French team protesting the Croatian team pretty aggressively. And they do have on-water umpires out there. Maybe they saw that.
Well, the issue,
I heard a whistle.
The issue there is the Croatian team are required to keep clear as the windward boat, and I think that was a lot of the excitement.
So you think it's if we pan left, the Croatian team possibly infringing?
Maybe, but I'm sure it was a windward boat keep clear situation as they exited the top.
Looks like they're hauling in.
They've been
pan
pinged.
left, pan left, pan left, and we'll see the Croatian team doing their penalty turn. Whoop. Okay, we got that.
Yeah, nice work by the team here to catch up with that one. So that was a classic case of the windward boat required to keep clear, failing to do so. I think there was a touch. The question was asked, protest, and of course we have wonderful on-the-water umpiring, so you're not in the bar at night waiting for the decision, instant decision, penalty taken.
Yeah, and coming around that mark, there wasn't a lot of breeze, so it's a lot harder when the boats are moving more slowly for the windward boat to keep clear, but they have to keep the wind strength in mind and move if they're required to by the leeward boat.
I was getting my director's hat on there for a minute. Sorry about that, Tim.
No, it's very good. No, we
Sorry,
caught up with it. It was
guys.
great. And the team here, there was...
Okay, back on board with Philip Buell and Marcus Coy. They are in sort of 14th-ish. And there they go. They're in the hunt. They're in the running. The whole point of these races for these guys is to finish the first 4 days in the top 11. You know, whether they win or come second is you know, another story, but really it's all about remaining in the top 11. Another whistle going. It's quite hard from the onboards to see what's going on, but a lot of dicing and action in this light winds.
Yeah, so the whistle, if there's been a protest question asked of the umpires, the whistle from the umpire will be the indication that they've made a decision, and it's either green flagged or penalty turn.
Well, here's Dr. Hubert Merkelbach. He's in fifth, sixth position. Great result for him. He came to the finals for the first time last year, ended up 25th. Big grin all over his face. He is the Corinthian sailor of this fleet. He is a full-time surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon in Germany, where it's -5, and he's turning up here and showing some of the icons, the superstars of the entire world of sailing. Clean pair of heels today. Hubert Merkelbach, fair play.
And he's sailing with Arthur Lopez, a Brazilian who recently, just a month ago, won the European Championship crewing for Torben Grail. So Arthur Lopez, a young, sought-after crew from Sao Paulo.
Well, coming into today, Hubert Merkelbach is in 20th position. Hubert and Arthur, Their string of results are a 20th, a 10th, a 21st, a 12th, 22nd, which they've discarded, and a 21st. So this is by far the best race for these guys.
And although they're back in 20th, they've still got a mathematical chance. 5 races to go, including this one. If they have a strong race here and they're up in the, they're in a keeper position, they've still got a mathematical chance of getting into that top 11.
Absolutely, and with the likes of this leaderboard by the end of the day, so that's pretty cool. They're struggling and fighting for survival because the situation resets on Saturday for the quarterfinals, the semis and the finals.
Look there how compressed the bow is, Frank Camas, and this is a time in a starboat, Kathleen, you'll know better than me, but I would have thought it's an advantage to be small as a helmsman. You're getting the weight out of the back of the boat, you can get the weight forward, over the keel, the boat stops rocking round. We're not seeing the rocking today, so the umpires have decided not enough wind to allow the crews to rock and roll and do.
And as long as the leech, which is the end of the sail, isn't flickering too much, then they probably won't be called by judges.
So Shirley Robertson on the water, our eyes and ears right next to these boats. What can you tell us, Shirley?
Well, Digby, we could hear some whistle blowing at the top mark, and it was just alerting the sailors to the fact that they could no longer pump at their will, that that it would be illegal to use too much kinetics. And actually coming down this run, I've seen a few of them have to do penalty turns. They've infringed that rule, and the jury have come over with that red flag. So you'll notice it's a lot more static than it was in previous days, where it was real physicality about sailing downwind. Now it really is about gentle finesse. It's about having the sails perfectly aligned to the wind, about small pumps, tiny body movements, and obviously also not getting caught by the jury.
Thank you, Shirley. That's a good observation and really helpful to us.
So the ability to turn on and off Rule 42 is crucial, and right now the rule applies. So that means kinetic energy and pumping the boat, you're not allowed to do it. Of course, if the committee decide there's enough breeze, it's game on, and that's what we'd experienced on the first couple of days. So now we're back to really the good old, sail a right angle, keep the boat quiet, and we can see there how bow down Frank Camas wants to have his boat, and that's to lift the transom out of the water, reduces the water line, it reduces the wetted surface, and in a breeze, Kathleen, length is your friend.
Exactly.
But in the light stuff, you just want to get that transomy boat out of the water.
Well, and because Frank is such a lighter skipper compared to the rest, you see Mark Struby so much further in front.
Well, there are...
And that is not a comfortable position, lying on your stomach with the waves bouncing under your bow, and you really have to stay very, very still. So even though Mark's lying on the bow, he's using just static energy to maintain his position.
Mendelblatt and Fati in that mix, just through bow 91. Bow number 5, we see Mendelblatt and Fati, and there's Francesco Bruni, Nando Calanino in that little bunch just behind. So those three really close and engaging each other.
Different philosophies by the crews. Now look, we've got Mark Struby laying down, so his centre of gravity is low, so the boat's very settled. But we look at the other two boats, the crews are standing up, they're in that pumping part of the boat, but that means that the boat probably, as we look at Nagri go through, Mendelblatt's gone through, they are higher in the boat, the boat will move round a little bit more, but it's just a philosophical difference between the teams.
Now you're looking at one of the best crews in the business here, Brian Fati, standing next to the mark, and he's all eyes, he's super alert, feeding information back to his helmsman, Mark Mendelblatt. These guys are the defending champions of the Star Sailors League.
But you can also look at Brian's feet. He goes in with every pump that Mark makes with his main sheet. You can watch Brian's feet and his legs. He's actually helping to rock the boat. He just bends his knees slightly, and they have the gentle rocking, a very natural.
You've got to be careful.
Rock, which you could claim is just due to the waves. You're allowed one pump per wave, and you can see Mark's shoulders going in and out But as long as there aren't judges right by them, as long as that leech, that end of their mainsail isn't flickering too much, they're going to get away with it.
Well, there is Diego Negri and Sergio Lambertenghi, two Italian teams in the same shot. Sergio Lambertenghi on the bow. Big jibe off by the Italian duo, Negri and Lambertenghi. Huge mainsails these. And Sergio really leaning that boat over.
Lead change. So remember at the top mark, Negri and Lambertenghi were in the lead, but Mark Mendelblatt has managed to just find a lovely little sweet spot and picked his time to jibe and came across. The other thought that I had is Fatih standing up. He is balancing the boat, a little bit like being on a skateboard, as we can see here on this boat. But more importantly, they're looking back up the course for the pressure, looking for wind, looking for the lane to sail downwind, and that was very evident for Mark Mendelblatt. We're not seeing that so much here with Lambertenghi. He's having a bit of a look now, pointing behind. And what they're pointing behind, it's either wind on the water. But let's have a look at this one. I think this is the key shot for Mark Mendelblatt. And Brian Fatih is all over the place. His eyes, he is the eyes out of the boat at the moment. And Mendelblatt is concentrating on speed. Fatih is looking around. Where's the bottom mark? Where's the wind on the water? Where is the lane that we can sail in? And I think that's one of the reasons that they've taken the lead.
Well, that looks really cool. Those two boats neck and neck, right next to each other. They're scoping it out and hammering towards that bottom mark.
And one of the things the crews are also doing at the moment is they're looking for the jury boats. I know when I'm in the bow and it's really light, I'm always looking around for the jury, so I can tell my skipper, okay, you can pump a little bit more now, we can rock a little bit more.
Well,
I think they're coming into the bottom mark here.
Colanino, Brian Fatih just stepping over. Bow 5, Mendelblatt Fatih, rounding the bottom gate. A lot of traffic right behind them. Simultaneous rounding with, I think it was Francesco Bruni. And whoa, big amount of traffic now going through. Hubert Merkelbach. And there the other Italians, Diego Negri through that little pack. Lars Grael is in there, in contention, in the mix. Bow number 7, Brazilian boat. And then Freddie Loof, who, no, he's still in the game. I was just trying to remind myself of who was black flagged. It was Mateusz Kuznierovic, George Zabo, Ugi Diaz and Georgi Sheduko.
Just saw Robert Scheidt go round as well. So although there's no pumping going on, I think there's been some real big movers on the downwind, mainly Scheidt. He's come back, he's back into the picture, and obviously Mark Mendelblatt did a very good downwind to be effectively first equal at Mark 2.
Well, I also just saw the Norwegian Maybe Revkin come round that bottom mark, and Josh Revkin, who's done all 5 now of the Star Sailors League final, again on that very useful commute on our little boat, our shuttle boat from the hotel to the yacht club. Josh was saying that what was he saying? I can't remember. You just nudged me.
Well, yesterday they actually had a little bit of an incident. They spent a lot of the night repairing their boats. They might have had some water taken in. So I think today, after a long night of working on the boat repair, they've come up. They have not a lot of energy, but they know that they can go a little bit faster now with the boat being repaired.
I've got it. I remember now. He was just telling me that they were fast downwind. They felt like one of the fastest boats downwind. Thanks, Kathleen. You bailed me out there. Good on you. So the Norwegian-USA duo Melleby and Revkin, who had they had a calamity yesterday. Let's be honest.
But
they hit the top mark.
But it happens.
They smashed into boats at the top mark. It was an absolute disaster for
after
them.
getting caught on the chain of the windward mark. Never fast.
But it happens. I mean, we've talked a lot about that positioning, top mark. Everyone talks about the top mark and a clear line. But Diego Negri led at Mark 1. He went round Mark 2 in third place. But how quick are they going to be up the second windward beat? Down to leeward of them, you've got Freddie Loof. Freddie Loof. I was talking to him yesterday. They've gone back to their sails. It's interesting. They had there. He said, "Oh well, I had my own sails here, and they're old, but it was okay." But he's so used, and he can go back to the reserve bank using his old sails in terms of setup and what he feels comfortable with.
Like a pair of slippers, Peter.
Yeah,
It's a comfortable pair of slippers. You know them well, and nice one.
I have said that about my wife. I shouldn't say that. Wrong answer.
No worries. Hey, a little quick shout out to one of our buddies, Peter Hallwright, down in New Zealand. I was a producer with Peter at the Valencia America's Cup, and we shared a flat, had a great time. Great buddy of yours. Peter, if you're watching with your feet up and a glass of Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc, with a barbecue firing up in this New Zealand summertime, unseasonably warm, I believe. Nice to see you.
Good on you, Diggers. He'll be wrapped. He's one of the good guys, and I'm sure he'll be involved in 2021 with the America's Cup.
So
he's a talent as a producer director.
Okay, so here is a great lineup. Here are 2 Italian boats. One, bow 3, super experienced duo of Negri and Lambertenghi, and then the VIP guests of Francesco Bruni, Italian America's Cup now skipper of the Luna Rossa campaign, going into New Zealand with Nando Colaninho. So 2 Italian boats in that shot. These are the 2 Italian teams, and what a great sight for Italy.
Breeze is up. First beat, no one was over the side. Remember, it was all about finesse. Now the crews are a full hike, and it's turned into a bit of a drag race. And who's on the move? It's a fascinating lineup. It looks, I don't know if it's camera angle or not, but the leeward boat there is going very nicely.
Beautiful.
So Francesco Bruni has certainly pushed the right buttons, and he's looking pretty strong. Looks over his shoulder. Of course, you're always looking at the windward boat, at how we're going, boat on boat, and if you're in that position that you might want to tack, you're looking for the windward boat to be a bit quiet and bow down, and whether they can roll out of there.
Okay, now we are on board with Ben Saxton, the NACRA catamaran foiling champ, with Stevie Mitchell. Ben went into today in 8th position. Their results over the past 6 races have been an 11th, a 20th discard, 5th, 9th, 12th, 2nd. His starts on day 1 were astonishing, and now he's getting back into the game here on race number 7. It's been a really cool race so far, I think, Kathleen.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where Ben is right now. Is he in the top 10? I think he's probably more in the middle of the pack. This is a new condition set. I think they did really well in those medium conditions that we had yesterday, and we didn't really see Ben around the front line like we did the past 2 days, as you mentioned, but we know that he's had pretty good speed. He's got Stevie Mitchell pulling the ropes there. It's not Robert Scheidt as written on the leg. Those are
he's borrowing his
it's the Robert Scheidt hiking suit. Robert Scheidt has his own brand. So unfortunately that is Stevie Mitchell wearing the Robert Scheidt wetsuit.
Oh, that's ace. Good old Robert.
And that was free. That little plug, that little branding plug was free.
Everybody go and buy Robert Scheidt's hiking pants, shorts,
and you'll hike just like Robert.
Yes.
Well, because if you get on maybe a bit of that performance rub off on us, it would be fantastic.
I'm going to wear them tomorrow. Why not?
So let's
Please
get
don't
back
dig
to
me.
this. Oh, the little bit of a flick there over the shoulder, just Negri just probably indicating to the camera boat that you might be starting to affect my wind. Diego Negri went round the first mark first. At the bottom mark gate, he was 3rd.
Well,
what can he do on this upwind?
He chose the left-hand gate, and it seemed to be that they were in a ready, so he came around and tacked over. Robert Scheidt, we also saw that. So that it indicates to me that with the breeze up, you're also going to see a few more shifts that they're going to be able to play. And right now, it looks like we're in another shift. You just saw Italy tack over.
Oh, here's a cross coming up, Kathleen, with the 2 Italian teams. I think it's looking really good for bow 97 Francesco Bruni. We'll stay with this cross just for the moment and just see how Diego gets on.
Yeah, I think he's going to be trailing the 3 boats, Diego. He'll take the stern, and Mark Mendelblack, who was leading at the bottom mark, gate. I think he's still ahead, so that would indicate there they're probably getting over on that the left-hand side. We talk about finding lanes, and all that is finding a track that you can sail without being affected by the boats ahead.
Well, talking of lanes, we have Virtual Eye back with us, so we can get a bit of geography. They are just over halfway up the track, leg number 3, the beat towards the top mark, spread right across there, Peter. A lot of boats out on the left-hand side as they look up. Negri and Lambertenghi, that's where they are on the race course.
Well, it looks to me as though certainly Mendelblatt, he's on the ley line, and Negri not too far below it. You can see that, what, about a boat length? 2 boat lengths, 2.5 boat lengths separating the first 3 boats.
Francesco Bruni with Nando Colaninho in that mix there between Negri and Lambertenghi and Mendelblatt and Fatih. Bow 97, Francesco Bruni, the new skipper of the Luna Rossa Prada America's Cup team. There he goes, hitting the deck running. Francesco Bruni, great tactician.
Bruni's fast, eh? In this condition today, I think Francesco Bruni is pushing the right buttons, and he looks to have a nice little edge over Negri.
Again, the 2 Italian teams in this 25-boat final. We're in the round robin stage of 4 days of racing, where all 25 teams race each other over 11 races. This is race number 7, and we have another 5 races, including this one, to complete the round robin stage of the first 4 days. And then, of course, 11 boats go through to the final.
Francesco Bruni, this will be a great race for him. He went into this one, he had a 20th, which was his discard in the last race yesterday. But he's in that cut-off, number 12 position. So Bruni will be really keen. And of course for Mark Mendelblatt, Brian Fatih, they're in the running, you know, for that golden ticket straight through to the final if they can keep dominating.
Indeed.
They've already won 2 races. And are they going to be the first team to have 3 bullets on the board at the end of this one?
Well, Virtual can give us the bird's eye view of how far they are up this track. They're more than halfway, around just over 600 meters to the top mark. You can see to the left the leading little pack using pretty much, as you say, Peter, on that left-hand side ley line. We can just zoom in down towards some of the back markers, Kuznedovic, Zitsky, who were OCS, so their result is not going to count at all, unfortunately, as isn't George Zabos and Eduardo Natucci's and Augie Diaz and Austin Sperry in that picture. They are out of this race, but they don't know that.
I think the polls do know that they're over, and I think they're just at the back of the fleet, but they're still following the fleet because they want to watch the race. They want to see what's going on. They want to see the shifts, and they're using it to learn, even though they're not racing anymore.
Here's the top 3 in our picture. Diego Negri, Sergio Lambertenghi, bow number 3. The other Italian team, 97, Francesco Bruni, Nando Colaninho, and Mendelblatt and Fatih just through the middle of those guys. Looking really hot, Peter, for the Americans.
Yeah, they're in a strong position. I think they're bow forward if the boats flop over onto starboard. They're up on that ley line. As long as they haven't overlaid, when the 2 Italian boats come over on starboard, I think they'll either be bow forward or clear ahead. But it's interesting as the game now, we start looking at the points plays out. Depending what happens in this race, we could actually see a lead change in terms of the overall, because Robert Scheidt was back in about 8th or 9th, and of course there's only 2 spots, 2 points in it between Mark Mendelblatt and Robert Scheidt. So there's the mathematical game going on for the individual race, but there's a bigger picture going on for first overall.
Well, top left of our screen we have the onboard picture with Diego Negri and Sergio hiking over the side. You can see his hand just come into the shot there. Diego Negri, helmsman, focusing hard, looking up to his sail and really concentrating on boat speed here.
what I'm seeing here, Bruni's faster, a little bit faster, lower. If you noticed, Bruni's got his jib just eased a little bit, and Negri's jib's a bit more strapped on the foot. So that would indicate to me that Francesco Bruni is set up to go a little bit lower, but push forward, bow forward. Negri, with that tighter sheet tension on the jib, is just going for a little VMGing a little bit higher but slower.
But when you're the leeward boat, you really need to put your bow down and go fast forward. So these guys need to be flip-flopped.
This is pure speed now, Pete.
But if they're getting towards the ley line, I guess it's minimising the loss for Negri.
Well, back with the Americans, Mendelblatt and Fatih, also in that pure speed drag race towards the top mark.
Now, we just saw Brian Fatih, the crew, look over the bow at the keel, and it's indicating to me that right now Mark isn't very happy with his speed, because that usually indicates that they're looking on the keel for some weed.
Well, what it could be, of course, they're looking underneath, and you know, Francesco Bruni is going forward and taking out bearing, and then you start thinking, are we in the right mode? What's going on? Have we got a bit of weed on?
Well, the Americans concentrating and focusing. They've come in here as the favourites, 2 times winner of the Star Sailors League Championship Finals, winners last year, defending champs here. They came in today in 2nd overall, just 2 points behind Robert Scheid and Henry Björning. But right now this result is going to see them at the top of the overalls.
You know what's really cool here is we talk a lot about Mark Mendelblatt, but what's really impressed me is Brian Fatih in this race. From the images I've seen, he's really clicked in to making that combination work. At downwind, we talked about, you know, he was doing a tactician's role, looking behind and really helping his skipper. And upwind, you can just see he's bow forward, he's looking around, he's looking for other boats on the course, he's helping out with boat speed. And I've got to say, I give a rap so far for Brian in this race. I think it's a good example to young people about the role in that crewing position.
It's a key role. Shirley Robertson can tell us a little bit as they approach the top mark. Quickly, Shirley, we're talking about the key role of the crew feeding information back to the helmsman. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, it's vital, particularly when, you know, the wind is up and down, so you're making changes to the boat. So, you know, if you really trust your crew to look around and make decisions and feed you information, so you don't actually have to look around yourself, you've got a sort of visual picture of what it looks like, almost a helicopter picture, you know, from above, then you can really concentrate on steering well and you know, adjusting the sheets and getting the, you know, the best out of the boat. And if you have that kind of partnership, it's absolutely golden.
Thank you, Shirley. Double Olympic gold medalist, speaking from experience as the crews head towards the top mark. We've got a bow shot now. We're looking from pretty much the top mark to the boats coming in to that top mark. Mendelblatt and Fatih just to the right of our shot there. Now we're with Diego Negri and Sergio Lambertenghi just, ducking behind into a tacking duel. The Americans tacking right on top, and it's fantastic. Bruni sliding through ahead of those guys. This is all on, Peter.
Yeah, but what's interesting, they're not quite on the ley line. And we saw Bruni with his good speed upwind, and we talked about that. Bruni there holding the cavalcade up. Bruni tacks, and now it's a Simo tack at the top mark. Another lead change.
I'm hearing whistles. Let's go to Shirley. Shirley, with the eyes nearest the boats, can you tell us anything?
Well, I can hear the whistles and I can see the flag. It is either that they've just realigned the course because it was a little bit skew whiff, or it's the pumping flag. So at the moment I can't quite tell you which.
Oh, Negri and Lambertenghi are gesticulating to the race committee on the right. Something's on. We saw Mendelblatt waving his arm at Francesco Bruni. So there's a lot going on around this top mark and the spreader mark. So meanwhile, the rest of the fleet coming through.
Yeah, Scheidt's made a move, as has Freddie Loof. So already in this race, we've had 3 lead changes. Isn't that cool amongst that 3 boats? I mean, at the top mark, first time it was Negri. Bottom mark, it was Mendelblatt. Now it's Bruni's in the lead. And the heavy players are coming up the back with Scheidt and Grail coming through. This is light air racing at its best by the experts.
Well, and also we're looking, as you said, very light air over on the right-hand side, and those boats that played the left-hand side earlier, they seem to have been in more pressure the whole time, as we've seen day after day. But coming into this mark, the pressure drops, and it makes the windward mark rounding, well, a little bit more, can be chaotic when you can't really move your boat as fast as you'd like to.
Well, we're on the second lap of this track, and just look how tight it is around that top mark. There's nothing. You could walk across those boats and you know, jump from one to the other. But Bruni and Colanino, how marvellous was that? How marvellous did they play their hand just coming up to that top mark?
They were quick upwind though. Remember we talked about when they were so they were in the end VMGing or going to the top mark straight line slightly quicker than Bruni.
Okay, well, we're seeing a red flag being waved from the back of one of our VIP boats. I think, was it Saxton 444? Ben Saxton, Steve Mitchell. We don't know what that's all about, but Shirley, apparently you have some news for us.
Well, the cut-off for free pumping is 6 knots over the deck of the boat, and we have seen a little bit of an increase as the clouds have dispersed, and so it's now free pumping again, and you can see it's a lot more dynamic on the boats. And you know, this could well favour the most experienced star crews who really kind of work together to propel that boat a little bit harder than the others.
Thank you. Shirley Robertson out with our TV cat, Peter.
The team that are really moving and have come back, look at Robert Scheidt and Boning, they've come up to 4th. And on the first beat, we were struggling to find them. So, again, you look at the teams that can sail through the fleet, and it's no surprise that Robert Scheidt has come through there. Mark Mendelblad has been there. I cannot wait to the end of this. I think they're going to go across about a very close overlap, at least, between those first 3 boats. And, of course, if they play too hard, Robert Scheidt is not that far behind. Can he come and get a piece of them before the finish?
Well, that's going to be cool. So we're on the final leg towards the finish, the downwind leg. As Shirley's just told us, they're allowed to pump and use their kinetic energy. And Robert Scheidt, the maestro, is just probably about as good as it gets. We're looking at Lars Grail, I believe.
Yeah, that's Lars Grail. And he's okay. This is a good, what's that, up in 8th or 9th? Lars Grail, one of the absolute gentlemen of our sport.
Yeah, Lars puts a lot of time in the Starboat. He sails the Winter Series in Miami. He sails most of the major regattas in Europe, and they have a very strong fleet in both Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, where he lives. And Lars is known for his downwind speed in light wind. He's very, very good with kinetics, uses them all the time.
Where I'm from, we love Lars Grail. When the late Sir Peter Blake was killed up the Amazon, he got shot. Lars Grail acted for the Brazilian government, came along, and he did the eulogy at the ceremony in Auckland. And so he takes a real soft spot. Lars Grail, he's an absolute gentleman of our game.
Well, on board with Ben Saxton now and Stevie Mitchell. Ben, the NACRA World Champ. NACRA's now the Olympic class on foils. We'll see that for the first time at the Tokyo Olympics. It'll be quite dramatic, and looking forward to that. And Ben has been sailing 470s and some keelboats, so this isn't completely foreign to him. But he's really impressed all of us here in the commentary booth. Ben Saxton just gently pulling away on that super long main. Mitchell, one of the most experienced star crews around, and a good duo.
Yeah, absolutely. I came across on the boat with Ben and Stevie this morning, and it was really cool because they talked about, and you told the story yesterday when they were on the game show with Shirley, and now they're good mates. And certainly Ben Saxton was very complimentary to Steve Mitchell, and Harry was helping him learn the star sailor's trade. And yeah, I think he'll be one of the guys to watch out in that NACRA 17
Well,
scene.
we're jumping back towards the front of the fleet now with Francesco Bruni, Nando Colanino on the bow there of 97, really rocking that boat in unison with Francesco Bruni.
Yeah, this is an improvement in their technique downwind as compared to the first day and yesterday. in the past, when Francesco sailed this boat, they didn't use kinetics downwind like this. And so this is fairly new to many of the skippers who sailed the Star in the past and are coming back to the boat again. And it was certainly when Nando was in the Olympics, they weren't doing this type of downwind sailing. So I've definitely seen this team's technique improve over the last 2 days.
Well, they've got a good someone to good match themselves with at the moment, because they'll be right next to Mark Mendelblack. What I noticed there is they've got their tack quite low, and from what I have observed since I've been here, the likes of Mendelblack and Scheidt, they really get that tack of the jib quite high. So it looks like that maybe Mark Mendelblack has regained the lead.
Okay, so Mendelblack back into the lead with Brian Fati. Scheidt, as they look down the pack, top of our picture, taking a very different angle to Bruni and Colaninho, with Negri and Lambertenghi, the two Italians staying together. This is interesting, Peter, because Scheidt and Björning, as you say, Scheidt is the maestro downwind. What can he do here?
Oh, well, if you find a lane, but of course, when you're back a little bit and you're attacking that, as we term it down under, leverage is your friend. So if you get a bit of separation, and that gives you leverage. If anything happens with the wind direction or pressure, you have a passing opportunity. Let's again, we look at Brian Fati on the bow. See how the tack of the jib for Mendelblack is higher?
So the tack is the bottom corner where there's a wire attached to the sail coming off the bow of the boat.
So it's quite subtle. So I'm talking about the jib, and we were looking at our Italians, we were looking at Francesco Bruni, and now we look really at one of, I think, the benchmark of this field. And Mendelblack, his boat is set up slightly different, especially the way they got the jib set up.
Well, Brian Fati on the bow, holding on to the shrouds, just looking back and feeding that information to Mark Mendelblatt. And of course, he's going to be looking pretty hard at some of these guys, Negri and Lambertenghi, gunning down on them, and we see them in the shot there. They are, well, there's not much between these boats.
Diggers, I don't want to harp on, but there's the classic, what we're looking at there, the differences between the tack height or the jib height off the deck. Now what that does is when you lift it higher, it projects the head of the jib to have more twist in it. More twist, as long as it's powered up, will give you more airflow over the sail and more speed. But I think that is quite a big difference between the two boats physically, but it's making a difference on the water.
Okay, well, at the moment.
Now looking at Robert Scheidt, he was only about less than 10 meters ahead of Freddie Loof and Bruno Prada at that windward mark. And already he's gained about almost 40 meters on them in this downwind leg in light breeze. That is incredible that he's able to do that. And right now he's just about 3 meters away from Negri and Lambertenghi.
Well, there are the two Italian teams in the shot with the race leaders on the left-hand side. I'm kind of curious to know where Robert Scheidt is in this picture. If we can ask our cameraman just to pan right a little bit, just to see if we can find Robert Scheidt in that shot. He should be appearing. There he is, coming into it. So there are the front four runners. Scheidt with a bit of work to do, Peter.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a look at his setup, because we've been talking about jib setup, and to me, number 3's jib looks closed in the head. Let's have a look at Robert Scheidt. Yeah, high tack. That means the head of the jib will be very open, and it's an open jib, you go faster. But Robert Scheidt and Mark Mendelblack, we know they're the benchmark. I just, you wonder if Negri and would look across, or maybe it's a philosophical difference between the Italians and Robert Scheidt and Mark Mendelblack.
Well, they also have different jibs they're using. That could have something to do with it.
Could.
Diego's using a quantum, and it could have something to do with the depth of the sail at the top. We were talking about twist before, so that's not something I can tell you about, but definitely they're all using different
This
jibs.
is a really telling shot, I think, because you have one of the best downwind sailors on the planet, Robert Scheidt, with the number 1 in the green bib, really focused, his traditional yellow cap from his Banco do Brasil sponsor, And there he is looking downwind, and Negri and Lambertegui. Negri and Lambertegui are awesome downwind and full time in the Star. And Scheidt coming back to do this competition, training hard. And here he is. He won this competition in 2013 with Bruno not Francesco Bruni.
Prada.
Bruno Prada, thank you. And now he's back with Henry Björning. So can Scheidt take a chunk out of the Italians, if not the Americans?
Mark Mendelblatt, Brian Fati. Brian Fati again, he's just pointing back. What am I pointing on? Pressure on the water. Where's the relevant clean air with the boats behind? And all at the same time assisting with that Thorpe ship's rocking motion, assisting Mark Mendelblatt to ease the boat down towards the finish. Digby, not far to go now.
Not far. We can just cut to virtual very quickly to see how geographically that looks. Mendelblatt and Fati, I think they've got this, Pete. They're away, but the battle really is going to be for second, third and fourth. Look at Mendelblatt, Fati. 40 some meters ahead of the guys. I doubt they're going to be taken here, but Scheidt is on a charge with the blue line now. Robert Scheidt, Henry Björning coming into second. They have just ground their way through those two Italians, and they're steaming into second position, and now they're attacking the Americans.
Digby, up the first beat, we weren't even talking about Robert Scheidt and Björning. They were back. They weren't on the leaderboard. Right now, they're looking to get up to a second or a third, and it's those races, the races that you win, you won. You've probably got a good, you sail well, but when someone can sail through the fleet like Robert Scheidt has done here, that's impressive. Take it over the line,
towards the finish of race number second, it is the SSL defending champions Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fati. A masterclass in course fleet racing. Very cool, calm and collected. Coming into second from the right of shot, Robert Scheidt with Henry Björning hammering through that start line and finish line in second place. What a masterclass from the great Brazilian Robert Scheidt. Third through Diego Negri, Sergio Lambertegui, just getting one over their countrymen, Francesco Bruni and Nando Colagnino. Those guys here racing for the first time in the Star Finals, doing a great job, and then they are followed by Ben Saxton. Oh no, I beg your pardon.
Freddie Loof and Bruno Prada.
Freddie Loof and Bruno Prada.
Who I don't think at this point. Oh no, they're in the game this time.
They're all right. They weren't OCS, so they're good. Then we're looking at Frank Camas and Mark Struwe. Frank Camas just gets better race after race after race, and these are his conditions, a technical sailor. And I think that's Zabo, who we know were a flick. They've obviously been aware of that. And then Ivan Melleby. I did say they were strong downwind. Josh told me this morning, and they've climbed up into sixth position there, seventh in this race. Very well done, as the rest of the fleet come flying through that line.
Looks like Paul Kayard in the middle there, Hamish Pepper on the right-hand side. Okay, not a good race for Xavier Rohart and Pierre-Alexis Ponceau. And Torben Grail, the last boat to cross the line.
Your countrymen, Peter, Hamish Pepper, Craig Monk coming through. The Croatians.
It's a penalty.
Oh.
It looks like that might be a penalty.
Offloading, a little penalty. I think it's that Paul Goodison. Just to the right, just off our shot.
Well, it's not a bad time to do a circle because there doesn't seem to be anybody else catching them here.
Yeah, he did that well. He had to do a penalty too, but he didn't lose a spot. So Paul Goodison goes over the line. That penalty turn, of course, would have been called.
Okay, well that's a match racing tactic, isn't it? If you've got a penalty, offload. But I suspect they had an infringement a little bit before that. Okay, I think one more boat to come through the line after Goodison and Clean. It was Mohanen and Tillander. Here are the provisional overall race results, the overall leaderboard. Scheidt and Björning up in top. They maintain their top lead, but Mendelblatt and Fati, that first position puts them almost on equal points in second position. Negri and Lambertenghi are up into third. Kayard and Trinta drop down to fourth. Buell and Coy, look at those guys with that consistent scoreline. That ninth position for them sees them go up into fifth place. Goodison and Clean, despite their 20th place in race number 7, that is their discard. They've been good enough now to be in 6th overall. Freddie Loof, Bruno Prada in 7th, Rohard and Ponceau, the Frenchman, in 8th. Ben Saxton, Stevie Mitchell in 9th. Torben Grail, Sam Conchalvis in 10th. Now getting himself into the top 11, the survivors of the competition at the moment. Kuznidovic and Zitsky, that's bad news for those guys because they were black flagged. Meliubi and Revkin, that 7th, has got them back up into 13th, so they're in with a shout. Letzer Engelhard in 14th. Frank Camas, look at that, 6th place. He is now up into 15th overall with Mark Struby, and Zabo and Natucci down into 16th with that black flag. Maholin and Tillander in last position. Merkelbach and Lopez, their best result so far with an 8th.
Well, you know, looking at the scores of Mateus and Dominic, the Poles, I really thought they'd be much more out of the running than they are. They're sitting now in, I think, about 11th, 12th place, with still a chance with carrying a 20th place and 2 BFDs to get into that final 10.
Yeah, but it's tough. We've still got 4 races to go. And
4 races in all. We know we're going to have at least 1 more today and possibly 2 more today. But I wonder if we could see the highlights of race number 7 to music, because despite being light wind, it was pretty intense and there were a lot of place changing, a lot of lead changing going on there. Okay, some lovely highlights from race number 2. So the competitors get a little chance for a breather, and we're seeing them just decompress a little bit after that rather intense race number 7 as the race committee reconvenes and looks at the wins and checks the line, Peter. But this championship is now beginning to take shape. Robert Scheid, that was his race. Astonishing.
I thought I loved that race. That's probably the race I've enjoyed the most. There were lead changes, there were trimming details going on. Robert Scheid up the first win beat. He wasn't on the leaderboard. To come through from that deep to get a second with obviously great tactics, but his speed on that downwind was phenomenal.
Well, we're looking at Robert there, just going through our shot. And I know actually that Shirley is trying to jump on. She may actually have even jumped on already. Let's see. And
work on that last run.
It's very hard work. It's too much hard and very tough after the race.
We have been commenting on just how fast, how good you look downwind. What's the secret? What's the magic, Robert?
I think I think the key was to be free on the downwind. You know, we were deep in the race, and we just managed to have a good lane, clear air, and working on our downwind technique. I think we jive at the right times, and that put us back in the race. So we're really happy because we were in really bad situation at times there.
It's impressive watching it. I mean, today is very different to what we saw yesterday. You know, what's going to win today? What's the key?
I think you just gotta have a good start, a clear lane. You know, no matter where you're going, but at least you have to be free, and you know, think so. At least if you're free, you're gonna be away from 70% of the fleet. And I think it's very tricky because people are pushing very hard at the start. We have black flags, so it's quite risky to manage this situation. So we had a bad start, and hopefully the next one we can start a little bit better.
It's impressive to watch, and still top of the leaderboard. I mean, we're getting towards that final day. I mean, how important is that?
Oh yeah, it's important to be top 2. It counts a lot. But you know, Mark's sailing really well, Diego's sailing really well, and there's still 4 races to go, so a lot of action.
Well, we're enjoying watching you, especially your hard work, downwind, Henry. Good luck in the next one.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Shirley, and I think you picked a good boat to jump on and chat to Robert and Henry, because in that last race, Robert and Henry were absolutely on fire. Now, what a treat for all of us, Star Sailors fans, sailing fans around the world, because we have none other than Mr. Dennis Conner, a 4-time winner of the America's Cup. Here we are. Dennis, what a pleasure to have you with us, and you've just flown in, you've blown in like the wind to come and enjoy the Star Sailors League final again.
Well, I just love Nassau. I've been coming here not as long as Durwood, but 100 years, a long time. But I mean, a long time for the SORC, and grew to love it and look forward to a wonderful event. Nassau Yacht Club is always a very hospitable place you look forward to going. And what a fleet that Michelle has put together this time. And I think it's the best we've seen here.
It is the best. Without doubt, bar none. The first year was extremely strong, I have to say, and you know, it kind of values. And after the Olympics, we had the Olympians.
Back, of course, but both of Grail brothers, and you just look down that list. It's incredible. Freddie Loof and the Camus. I mean, I didn't realize there were so many good sailors in the world.
Oh, we have some of them here. You know, I have to say, the America's Cup last time, there was a lot of hubris about the best sailors, you know, and everything. And that's not quite true, because
the best sailors are not necessarily in there. Maybe the best team leader, and starting has a lot to do with it. But it's a lot. America's Cup's a lot more than this type of racing, where the real skill shows up, and the folks out on the water really can shine, getting a good start, not getting over the line early. We saw Torben make a little mistake yesterday, OCS, and it's going to hurt his spirit a little bit. But it's just great seeing this kind of racing to me. I love the Star Boat, the best boat in the world. It has been that way for 100 years, and I think I'm just fortunate to be here and part of the event.
Well, we're privileged to have you with us, and we've got Peter Lester here, who actually was a tactician against you on your Stars and Stripes boat back in the day, which is rather fun. I'm afraid you got soundly beaten by Dennis and his catamaran.
But it was one of
a team deal.
But it was one of the coolest things. You know, I reflect back, and I'm sure Dennis does, and we were all pretty young then. It was one of the most enjoyable things in my life, and I've had friends from that time that we're all good mates still, and it was an interesting time in the America's Cup history.
Yeah, a lot of us are still around.
Just
no,
it's great.
Yeah, Jim Hardy's still kicking, and you look around, we've had a lot of longevity.
Haven't we been lucky, Dennis? You know, and at that time it was all very deadly serious, and sometimes a little bit, controversial. But in the end, we're all sailors, and it was just a little snapshot of what happened at that period of the America's Cup. But I'd like to ask Dennis, the new boat, Emirates Team New Zealand and Prada have come out with this concept of this foiling monohull. Tell us what you think.
Well, first of all, it's too soon for any of us to really know yet. So it's all just conjecture, and I have no facts any more than you or the people in New Zealand to really go by. I think it's an interesting concept. We've seen some pictures of a starboat fitted out with the same concept. But I'm sure that they know what they're doing, and on paper and in the computer, it must look good, or they wouldn't have come forward with this. So I'm looking forward to the engineering involved in building the boats and trying to keep, these boats aren't very wide, and having a contraption out on either side with the pods, tremendous force on those. And also, I'm interested in what will happen with the sailing. When you're coming together, they say they're almost as fast as the catamarans. If they're coming together at 25 knots, that's a closing speed of 50 knots. You come together and you dial up whatever those things are, the pods, the sticking out with the foils attached to them. It seems like you could hook them, under the water even. How are you going to get one up and one down? So I think it's going to be more interesting racing than the catamaran if it comes to fruition as it could.
Well, they are clever people, the Kiwis, I have to say.
It's not just
it's not just a design team that did this.
Yeah.
They are clever.
Certainly Dan Bernasconi and and his team of designers, those young designers, they look at the world differently. And I was privileged enough to be in Bermuda inside Emirates Team New Zealand, and it just blew me away with some of their thinking, some of their philosophies. And Dennis, in our time, we'd have, I think it's really great to give the young people in that design concept area the freedom to go and be creative. Now, how's it all going to turn out? Hey, watch the space in 4 years' time.
Well, there's still a lot we don't know. There's a lot of controversy even on the venue. And if it does stay in Auckland, which, I think Team New Zealand's trying to put the screws to the government a little bit for more loot. But they'll come around eventually and make a settlement on the money situation. But there's some controversy as to the Waimea Harbor and whether to extend the wharf, and what about the spoils, the greens, not to keep the harbor pristine. And so the venture capitalists want to make it more commercial. So there's still a lot of water to come under the bridge.
Yeah, I think there is, but I'm confident as a Kiwi that the issues, the political issues and the infrastructure that's needed down in the Viaduct Basin and to sail in the Waitemata and the Hauraki Gulf, they'll overcome that. I'm confident that the America's Cup will be in New Zealand.
I can't see it leaving, but they still have to work through some
Yeah,
of these
there's
things.
a lot to, long as all the different factions, it's like life. Just keep talking to each other. You'll figure it out.
Impressive comeback from New Zealand after that heartbreaking defeat in San Francisco. We're still talking about the America's Cup because we have an America's Cup tactician and Mr. America's Cup here. We've got over 10 minutes before the next start, so this is quite a nice chit-chat moment for us. Why not? Let's take the opportunity. But I remember being on the dock in San Francisco, doing just, the humble interviews, the winning interviews, and the terrible losing interviews, which is quite hard to be interviewed when you've just been smashed.
I've been there.
Yeah,
we've all been there.
And Grant Dalton just kind of called from his boat, charging in with all these grim faces. It sucks. It sucks. Pretty much summed it up in those two words. I wonder what he did and what that team did to come back from that and just say, right, kaboom, we're going to smash this. I'm curious to ask him, and I at some stage we will ask him, but it's a pretty cool turnaround to come and beat the giants of Larry Ellison.
I feel good for New Zealand. Of all the countries we go to, fortunate to go to race, I think that those, pound for pound, the New Zealand folks, they love their sailing and their racing more than any other nation. So I felt good for them with relatively modest reserves to be able to come there and race some of the richest and most powerful people in the world and come away with a victory. It says a lot. I think that justifiably they're very proud of their accomplishments, and a lot of it is in sailing and in yacht racing. So good on them.
Good on them.
For me, Diggers, down being a Kiwi, we have two big world sporting franchises. One's the New Zealand All Blacks, that's the rugby team, and the other one is the America's Cup brand and Emirates Team New Zealand. But certainly after San Francisco, some pretty serious questions were asked. And what the board did, led by a guy called Bob Field, who was the CEO of Toyota New Zealand, they undertook an independent debrief, confidential. So they went through the team, excluded the CEO, Grant Dalton, and from that debrief document, they came up with a 20-point plan. That's confidential. But from that plan, and we know, you know, things like, well, we're going to reinvigorate the design team. We've got to make some sailing team changes. We've got to do it our way. We've got to be technically and use the technology that we can gather from friends and family. So they really took a very pragmatic approach. They had to make some big calls, getting rid of a guy called Dean Barker and some of the designers that have been there a long time. But if they hadn't have changed, they wouldn't have won the America's Cup in Bermuda, in my mind. So that was sort of in a thumbnail the key. That was that big debrief and the ability to change quickly. And then we were a bit lucky in New Zealand that two rock star sailors came out of the Olympics, Peter Burling and Blair Tuke. You know, have got a silver and a gold medal now at Olympic level. And they're exceptionally young gentlemen, you know, and wouldn't it be great to see them here, Dennis? Sailing starboats, wouldn't it?
I still think it came down to the people involved. You know, they had a bad accident right there in the middle of the series that the team worked all night to get. Amazing to me to get it back on the water the next day. So it was still, yes, a good plan, yes, good design, yes, good planning, but it still came down to the people involved. And they had a small team. Look at the amazing job they did repairing their boat when they came up against adversity.
The team was 85 people in Bermuda, and the budget was enough to get the job done. But certainly you talk about the pitch pole day, and I was inside the camp, and when that boat arrived back at the dock, it was severely broken. But the way the team stuck together, they prioritised very carefully what they needed to get done to race the next day or the day after. They were lucky to get a blown off day, too much wind. But I didn't hear one person in that 85 member team any dissent. Just get on, get the job done, prioritise the job list. The guys in the workshop, legends, led by their design team, and that was the defining point, Dennis.
I think it was.
You know, the recovery from the pitch pole.
That could have been the series one way or the other that very day. As you say, God was on their side with that Zay Day. They only had a few of those in the 4 months they were there, so maybe it was preordained or something special was going on here that wanted New Zealand to win.
It's a very interesting point. In San Francisco, they couldn't buy a trick. They couldn't get a lay day. They couldn't get in Bermuda.
You know, they could have won in San Francisco. They almost won with the time limit ran out.
Yeah, exactly.
And another time when the wind went over 24.5 and they called the race off. They could have won that thing like that in a heartbeat.
The gods were with Oracle in
But
San
in
Francisco,
Bermuda, the gods were with the Kiwis. Honestly, lay days, the timing worked in their favour, and we just talked about the pitch pole day. So sometimes you've got to have a little man on your shoulder as well.
Love it. Gentlemen, we are here at the Star Sailors League final, the 5th ever final that we've had with this stellar class of sailors, some of the best in the world. I'm not going to go down the America's Cup route and say they are the best because, you know, that is hubris.
You can say it. No one's going to argue.
No. Cool. Now, but I'll tell you one thing about this championship and this whole movement of the Star Sailors League is the camaraderie. So they're coming here. Their careers are not on the line at this regatta. It's prestige and prize money and everything, but Ben Saxton, for example, will go back to his Olympic NACRA class and go for it, and he'll have back-pocketed some amazing experience and some good chat with some of these awesome sailors. And Dennis, before you come back, we have a little magic moment. It's just after the skipper's briefing. This happened. Let's just enjoy it. So basically, the whole crew, every sailor, every skipper went round and just shook each other, and you can just kind of read the body language a little bit, the kind of respect. There's Hamish,
Paul Kayard,
Craig, and they just, you know, walked their way around the room. It was I was just happened to be filming Faces, and I just thought, well, this is a charming little moment. I know, of course, you know, dinghy classes and fleet classes around the world do this kind of thing, but it was just nice, and it just sums up the kind of friendly competition that's just so wonderful about our sport of sailing.
Well, you know, they're coming here, as you said, for many reasons, but I think the main thing is they love to race. They want to compete against the best, and that's, you know, ask Michelle. His phone never stops ringing for people wanting to be invited as the VIP outside the rankings. So here the best of the best coming together. I won't say ego, but how do I stack up against these guys? It's not the money. Most of these guys have enough money to live okay, or they wouldn't be able to afford the yachting. But so I don't think the money's important, but they're not here to win.
It's a competition.
It's the competition.
Yeah.
I really think it is, and sure they're friends, but they're not just coming here to see their friends. They want to come and race. It's about let me at them and let's get it on.
All right, good. We'll quote you on that, Dennis. That's going in tonight's press release. Dennis Connor says.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Well, I understand from the race committee that we are some 11 minutes off the start of race number 8. Now, Shirley Robertson has been on our cans, hopefully listening to a little bit of our chit-chat about the America's Cup. Shirley was out there and also enjoying the Star Sailors League. Shirley, I wonder if we could jump in and have a quick chat with you. We understand there's around 8 minutes. What can you tell us, Shirley?
Oh, it's lovely to hear Dennis. Hopefully I'll catch up with him when I get back. And it was really interesting being on board with Robert and Henry. They.
Could somebody get a? Sorry, I beg your pardon, Shirley. Carry on.
It's all right. I'm just hoping you can hear me. We talk about sailing in light airs, but it's so important to have good wind, to have free wind. And as the wind gets lighter, the wind gets lazier. And so often you need to sail more extreme. And we saw Robert go right out into the edge and work the free air around there, and then come back into the pack. And he was very modest. He sails very fast, and he went in the right direction. And I had to laugh that he's there with his bare feet. He's so Brazilian. He said he can't concentrate when his feet gets too hot. So it was really nice seeing them. And I think Dennis is right. They come here for the great racing, the tight racing, and to sail, amongst the real legends of our sport. I think this next race could be quite tricky. There's a big cloud bank coming in. The wind's gone a little bit right. It's got lighter as well, and so things are kind of on the move. And I know there's some weather expected later on today. So, as a sailor, you get used to it. And I'm sure Dennis will have a view. You kind of just try and you get a feel for change and what might happen, and then you need to manage that risk. So I think we'll see a slightly different race again. Lots going on. Nothing's ever straightforward in sailing. And they're just signalling now. Actually, they're just signalling that it's going to be free pumping, and it must be right on the cusp. 6-knot limit at deck level on the committee boat. So it's free pumping. So we're going to see another real kinetic battle all the way around.
Thank you, Shirley Robertson, out there on the water. We are now under 6 minutes to the start of race number 8. Dennis, it's going to be good. The championship's taking place. It's taking shape.
In this marginal wind here with anything goes in the crew and the kinetics involved, it makes a bigger difference sometimes when there's 6 or 7 knots, and the people that really know how to use their body weight, bear off down the waves and work the boat, and the rocking the crew effort involved sometimes makes a bigger difference here in this marginal open use of the kinetics than it does when it's windy. We know when it's windy, you're going to see Robert Schneid bang loose and going off downwind and jibing all the time and gaining on the jibes. But in this lighter air, sometimes the techniques are different. You can pull you out too hard on your vang and close the top of your sail, or it's too loose. There's quite a little difference in technique and speed downwind in this lighter air. So I'm interested in the actual techniques of the racing. I'm looking forward to the race.
Well, it harks back to the days when you won the Star Worlds and won every single race in the Star Worlds.
I won it upwind. Now everyone pretty much goes fast upwind. I think the big differences now are these races are being won in the Olympic classes, and the Etchells, the Lightning Stars, they're being won with downwind technique. So things have changed in the whatever it was, the 40 years since I was dominant.
Okay. Well, we'll head to pictures on the water. We can hear the Blue Peter going up. 4 minutes to the race start of race number 8, the second of the day. We are just over halfway, I think, in our 4 days of round robins, where everybody races against each other, all 25 teams. And then on Saturday, day 5 of the Star Sailors League final, they go into this incredible, dramatic quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals, and only 11 sailors from the 25 will survive into Saturday's racing.
We could see some upsets, you know, Digby. And going into this, if you had to look at the favorites, well, Mark Mendelblad always at the top of the list down here. George Sabo, not so much this time. So even in light air, where some of them are specialists, I think we're going to see some upsets today.
And some of the newcomers, the VIP specialists, the Olympic class sailors, are certainly showing a clean pair of heels to some of the Star aficionados.
Well, I think it just goes to show that the tide has risen in all classes. The Stars used to be the elite, but the other classes now are catching up, and we can see that with newcomers that you could never expect to keep up with Robert and Torben doing an amazing good job.
Well, 2.5 minutes to the start. We have an onboard here with Paul Kayard sailing with Phil Trinter. Paul came in today in 3rd overall. He's impressed us enormously yesterday with 2 race wins out of the 4 races that they sailed yesterday. And here he is in contention and looking extremely keen out there on the water with Phil. 2 minutes to go. The Blue Peter up. I suspect, and I rather hope, they won't be putting it's not a black flag scenario here, so normal sailing starting procedure, and we'll hope for some good discipline amongst the Starfleet for race number 8.
Yeah, no black flag in this one, so if someone does jump the line, they have the ability to return and start again. If we do see a general recall, we may well see the principal race officer want to put that in play, but that is not the case at the moment. I think today in these conditions, attention to detail. We saw small detail changes in that first race, and trimming. It'll be interesting to hear Dennis when we going talking about attention to detail in terms of trim and setup, because it makes the difference.
Well, Virtual Eye can give us a little bit of geography in a moment as to where they are in relation to that start line. You can see they're beginning to form that line up, Dennis.
It looks to me like the left end must be favored, because you know Torben's aggressive. So I see the Brazilians down in there.
Mendelblatt, he's down there. So
the left end, there's going to be a battle for the left end. Somebody's going to win that, and there's going to be a couple that don't come out so well. So it's a hard call. Do you want to start up the line so you can tack right away if you're in a bad spot? But I think the race is going to be won at the left end of the starting line.
Well, there's the virtual view. Quite a few boats at the committee boat end, but
we still have 30 seconds to go, though.
Big stack up in the middle of the line. There's an even spread, and we'll go back to our live shot. There they go. Ooh, trouble down at that pin end there.
They weren't laying the line, Digby. They weren't laying the line. They had to get up a little bit.
This is nasty for Torben Grail. Oh, I think he's going to make it. Well, that's a clean line.
Poor tech start by Torben Grail.
Wow.
Well, at this level,
left-hand favoured.
And it's left-hand favoured, as Dennis has said, but a port tech start. Well, would you expect that at this level?
Shirley Robertson, Torben Grail, port hand flyer. Tell us about it.
He's the man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really, I saw him after yesterday's race where he got OCS, and he was really cross. He prides himself on being able to start, you know, right on the button. And the wind has gone left just in the start sequence, and he was right there to take advantage of it. Brilliant.
Well, a textbook port hand flyer there from the Maestro, 5 Olympic medals and a round the world race win. Pretty cool. He was actually, I saw him this morning giving the poor race officer a bit of an earful about being called OCS. So he's out here with fire in his belly to come and do well at this championship.
He's going to win this race, though. The left was good. The wind's going to the left. He got a perfect start. He's not letting anybody clear out to the left of him. I think you're going to see him on fire in this race, and he'll be coming back from so far what might be a disappointing results.
Okay.
He's one of the greatest, or if not the greatest. He's wonderful. What a great family. I mean, if you think of it, the brothers and the daughters, the whole family must be in the genes. Just wonderful.
Well, that's an amazing shot looking towards
the left. It's coming
the little
good.
island. Everybody's more or less going on starboard tack towards the left. Mendelblatt, bow number 5, just beginning to poke out, but Torben Grail with a weather gauge. Deceptive angle from our boat because we're above, we're effectively winning the race from our TV position. But we can see Francesco Bruni, bow number 7, with Nando Colonino in the mix. He's a new skipper for the Luna Rossa campaign, Italian campaign.
Poking their bow out. It did look to me when Torben tacked that the boats to leeward were bow up on him, so but maybe a little bit of a split in the breeze off the line. But it's certainly Mark Mendelblatt, Robert Scheidt wanting to push forward hard over on that left hand side. It's been a pattern, Dennis, through this regatta that it has seemed to have looked like left favoured.
Well, that's the leading bunch, and they'll be tacking through, tacking fairly soon. Beg your pardon.
There's current out there, and so the current could be a factor, that, as well as the change in the wind condition.
Well, the leaderboard on the left giving us Mendelblatt and Fatih in the lead, just a metre ahead of Buell and Coy. Mendelblatt, Fatih, Sheduko, the Russians in there, Diaz and Sperry. Still early days on this first beat of race number 8. I'm wondering if we could have a quick look at that start again, because it was pretty cool to see Torben Grail apply some of his magic off that start line. So look at him go.
Must have a good stopwatch, because that was a wonderful start.
Quite something. Melleby and Revkin, the Norwegian flag, bow number 8, they had a nice start. And Coy and Buell here, the German team, bow 84. They're in a nice little position with a clean lane. It looks like the Russians have tacked straight over, bow 90. So that was a little replay of the start. But back to our live shots, and we are looking again at the team, the form team, Peter.
The 1-3 races, and you know, that really tells the story. The third race win in the first race today. They're leading this one. And Dennis, just talk to us a little bit about setting up of a starboat in terms of what we're looking at on picture now.
Well, first of all, there's some discrepancy in the sails. That's the first thing I noticed. It seems like the sails are so important. And I see Mark there look like Doyle sails to me, where at least half the fleet would have north, and then the sails that George Sable sells, the Quantum, as well. But different sails for different conditions, but they're managing to adopt these sails from light to heavy. You know, we're going to have some wind on Saturday, so we'll see how that all works out. But nice full jib in the front there, a lot of power going through the top. He's mad he's mad at the camera boat.
Oh, that's not good.
Telling him to get out of the way.
Yeah, Simon, Callum, get out of there.
They don't like that.
No, that's bad positioning. Does happen. Worst things happen at sea.
This is not a good spot. You can see where he's looking, that they're not in good place. Cause
not really.
He's looking back over his wrong shoulder.
Okay. Well, we don't want to be actually part of the race story particularly, so our little camera boat in the middle of the fleet's getting slightly out of position there. It does happen.
It looks like a big lead for the ones on the left, though. We're only 5 minutes into the race, and these guys are a couple hundred yards behind. So
well, Philip Buell, now Marcus Coy, mathematically leading this one, Peter, in the middle of the track, heading up towards the right-hand side.
Yeah, but I'm with Dennis. I think that left-hand side is so strong, and although at the moment, let it just settle down as they come up. You know, certainly once you get up halfway to that top third of the course, the left just seems to get stronger and stronger, and it's that group of Mendelblatt and Scheidt and Bruni who have stacked up, coming across on port on the left. I'm not sure. The issue for Buell will be looking over his shoulder going, they're taking bearing out of us, and it's just whether he can drop kick his advantage that's showing on the leaderboard. Can you ever get back to that group on the left?
Now, the conditions are differing through the day. We see the sun heat, the little bit of land, and Shirley could update us on that if you would.
You know, Digby, it'd be boring if it stayed the same.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the makings of a rain cloud on the left-hand side, and it might even be racing. It might even be raining out in the ocean, and I think that's what's dragged the breeze to the left, and all the sailors would have seen that. The course now is obviously, you know, it's out of line, and so we've seen nearly all the sailors on port tack. So hopefully the race committee will manage to even that up, but it's a real heads out the boat kind of day, and the cloud.
So if we can ask Johnny at Virtual Eye just to fly up a bit, and we'll try and get a geographic position of this entire racetrack and where the boats are. Shirley's giving us some on the water eyeball information on how the wind is moving around. You know, Pete, we've been talking about this left-hand track all day, but come on, what about the right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if they can get back. Right now, Virtual is showing the right to be quite strong, but just when we looked at the visuals, the boats on the left always look to me a little bit power up, and maybe a wee bit more pressure on the left.
Well, the Russian teams of Sheyduko and Dibin piling their way up the right-hand side of the track. They've just tacked over into the fleet. Freddie Loof here.
There's some good sailors. I was just going to say,
Not
there's
bad.
Good sailors on the right. Freddie Loof
Absolutely.
over there. So the Russians aren't just stuck out there by them.
Not at all. Well, this is their moment, actually.
A little kelp on their keel.
A little bit of weed stick action going on.
Get the weed off the keel.
Well, it's the first time we've had a Russian team at the Star Sailors final, and they are duking it out with Buell and Coy. Okay, getting a bit of weed off the stick, using a little weed stick off the keel, isn't it, Pete?
Yeah, well, you've got to get it off the foils. I mean, any debris on the foils is slowing the boat down its drag. So they just have that golf stick with a rope on the end of it. You just ease that down the leading edge, and that should clear the weed away.
Well, we've got a good cross coming up now, and we can see the Russians now engaging with Mendelblatt and Fatih, bow number 5. So that's pretty interesting, that cross coming up. We'll see who is going to cross ahead. I think the Americans have a good advantage, but we shall see live on air with this cross coming up. There they go, the Russians looking around, a lot of traffic. Mendelblatt Fatih tacking onto, it's at Robert Scheid, I think, tacking onto them in that. This is Shirley, this is getting extremely busy right in the middle of the pack.
It is, isn't it? And I think you're right. I think they got something on the left, but then, you know, there was a bit of breeze on the right, so it'll be interesting when they meet. Not having a great day, we're just watching him now, is Paul Gayard, a very different
much better in this race
scoreline than he had yesterday.
Well, as Dennis is saying, Russians doing a grand job here in this race, and they are up in the top rank, second mathematically towards the top mark. Mathematically it's Bruni and Colanino, but Pete is still going to be flying the flag for Mendelblatt and Fatih over there on the left.
Well, the Russians came out of there on a really nice angle, but you can see the breeze where so it's quite cellular out there in terms of pressure, and now they've gone quiet and they've gone bow down. So it's about really working your way up that invisible ladder out there from wind shift to wind shift, from little pressure cell, and Dennis, the picture changed quite dramatically there, didn't it?
It certainly did. It looked like left was good, and then the right came good, and as you say, got to stay in those cells to get back across to the left, which the Russians have managed to do. You know, the Russians are surprisingly well, but Valentin Mankin was a great star sailor from years back, so they have a heritage in starboats as well. Just haven't seen much of it lately.
Okay, well, 97, Francesco Bruni, the America's Cup tactician, now skipper of Luna Rossa Prada. There he goes. They're in a great spot there in the middle of the fleet covering everybody from the right-hand side and the left. Mendelblatt and Fatigue top of screen. Virtually we can see them setting up for that port ley line. The Russian team now working their way across to the port hand side. Buhl and Coy in the same patch of water as Bruni and Colaninho.
You know, Freddie Loof was over there right with the Russian. He stayed over there too long. Russians tacked on to starboard and got out of that right corner. And I think Freddie Loof is, as Peter suggested, having a hard time getting back from the right-hand side into the middle of the pack.
It's the old game, Digby, you know, where you end up in the corners and it's either going to be really, really good or really, really bad. Whereas the teams that sort of play the more middle of the course and play the tactical game, you're not going to lose a lot, but you're probably not going to get the big bonus if one side comes strong. But I think the really strong players like Robert Scheid and Mark Mendelblatt, you do see them working the middle of the course and just relying on the cellular nature, because I think today this race is quite different from the previous race where the wind is up and down a lot, probably affected by that cloud bank out to sea that Shirley was talking about.
Well, here we are looking at the race leaders. Big crossing action going on as I think that's back in the background, Torben Grael.
I noticed that the water is getting a little choppier. I just saw some of the folks pulling on their lower backstay, making the middle of the mast come back a little, making for a fuller mainsail. So the water at the top is a little choppier than the water at the bottom.
Okay, well, Virtual can tell us where these guys... Oh, nice cross there. Beg your pardon, my mistake. I think that was Mendelblatt, actually. So that is the geography of the fleet coming in inside that cone towards the first top mark rounding, and that is super, super close, 100 meters or so between the top 20.
Francesco Bruni has pace. He showed it in the previous race, and he's managing to cross right over to that left-hand group, and when he picks his moment to come back towards the top mark approach, I think we're going to see him ahead of the group led by Mark Mendelblatt, who went extreme left.
Okay, George Szabo, Eduardo Notucci just to the right of picture. Here we're on the leaders, not far. They're now gunning towards the starboard ley line. They'll do one more tack, I reckon, before that top mark, and they're in a healthy spot.
See a little more chop up there, maybe from
okay.
Some of the
good traffic going on.
Yeah.
The spectators at that top mark.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the guys last night, and certainly in the lighter conditions, there's a lot of spectator boats out there, and it does
and general, you know, ferries and passenger boats and people piling off to the beach for the day.
Well, it's light. It's gone light at the top of the course.
Well, here they are setting up towards their final tack. We could throw back to Shirley. Right now we're seeing Bruni and Colaninho in the dominant position.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm just coming over for a bit of a look. It looks like he's just gonna get ahead. He's fast today, Digby. I mean, he's just really shone in these upwind legs. Just crossing ahead of, I think that's the Russians. Nice work.
So, the final tack to the ley line of the top mark. He does indeed. He's got... Who is that? Philipp Buhl, the German's right behind him. The young German laser sailor. Szabo's in the mix, just tacking behind there. There comes Diego Negri, slotting in to that little spot, weaving their way through. Mendelblatt and Fatih are in that little group there. There's the Russians coming in. Georgi Sheduko, Alexander Zibin. Around the top mark, pole position. It is Francesco Bruni, Nando Colaninho, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 boat lengths over Philipp Buhl, Marcus Coy. Astonishing result for the young laser sailors. Woo! That's a close one. Ivan Gaspic just squeezing around with the Russian team.
I think Gaspic might have clipped that marker as the tide's starting to... It's actually going out, so it's going from left to right. Of course, in the light stuff, that'll drag you down onto the mark if your ley line's too shallow. It's compressed at the top mark.
Good camera position as we're seeing the fleet rounding that top mark we're on board with Paul Kayard now.
He was
Going
having
around
a
on
bit
that
of-
little spreader mark. Phil Trinter.
Kayard had a little drama in the beginning, but he came back nicely. Looks like he's about in the middle of the fleet now.
Okay, there they go on that little spreader mark.
Very
Much-
tight, very tight.
There's some red flags flying. Back to the fleur. Somebody's protesting, big time. It's Frank Camas. He's waving his flag to the jury, not happy about something, shouting at another boat. Maybe it was the poles. I can't say.
What's really tricky on that offset, if you get caught low, you come around the mark, or you've been really shallow and you go around the mark slow, if someone's slightly overlead on starboard and they're coming in at pace, it really is like Buffalo Girl around the outside.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened there with Frank Camas, and Lars Grail has rolled over the top as they come to the second mark at the top, and that's Freddie Loof just rolling through as well.
Okay, this is the back of the fleet now, really. Melby Revkin going through. We can replay that very quickly. Just have a quick look, see if we can spot anything.
So close in the current.
It's really hard. Camas coming into that big pack. Letzer in there. Camas 92 waving his flag. Very hard to tell.
Yeah, I think the action was right on the mark, and there's a penalty there for that. Whoop.
Okay, Facundo Alitza.
I think
the
Facundo
Argentinians
needs to be a little bit careful giving the umpires, a bit of hand in the air. That's
oh well, part of the drama. Okay, so this is towards the back of the pack, heading down for the first run down towards the bottom gate, and we are now on leg 2 of race 8 of the Star Sailors League final. Just a very quick reminder, the round robins, as we call them in sailing, there are 11 races and we're on race number 8, so we should have 3 more races, possibly another one today.
It looks to me as though Francesco Bruni has got a nice little gap between him and the trailing boats who are all locked together. It's Buell. First time we've seen the Russian team up there. It's good to see. They really got it right up that first windward beat. We'll just monitor how they go as the race unfolds. Are they fast enough to stay with the pack?
Well, we do have an onboard camera with Philip Buell, German team. I beg your pardon, this is Ben Saxton. Do we have Philip? No, not working. It's gone fuzzy, fair enough. But the young Ben Saxton now, NACRA sailor. So he's new to this class, Dennis, and you could teach him a thing or two.
No, I don't think so. Past my prime here. These guys are so physical now, and we never used to rock and ooch and bump like this. We sat there like a big log downwind. These guys are way, way, way better.
It's what I really like, Dennis, in the modern sailors, and Ben Saxton here, is the variety of boats that they sail. I don't know about when you came through, but for me, we were encouraged to specialise. But you look at like Ben Saxton and Philip Buell and others in the world of yachting, they sail, he's the world champion in the NACRA 17 class, a foil and cat. They sail this variety of boats, and I think they're better yachtsmen for it.
Okay, so Ben Saxton working away, Olympic class sailor in the NACRA catamaran, now foiling. And here he is on a 106-year-old keel boat, the Star, working hard and doing incredibly well, actually, overall in this championship. He's blown us away with his bold starting manoeuvres, and quite frankly, he's in a good position to make the top 11 cut going into the final day.
Be really, if Buell and Saxton can both get into the cut to go through, that would be a fantastic result for them and for the regatta, because it just shows that these new talented guys that are coming through, people coming through, crews, they can mix it. They can mix it with the legends.
Well, we're back with the leading pack now, looking back towards our leaders, Francesco Bruni and Nando Colaninho, and they've got a bit on, Dennis. Quite a few boats breathing down their neck.
It's not as windy as it might appear out there. You can see by the fact the sails are not staying full, which partially because of the rocking and the ooching, but I don't think the wind's come up any. I expected it to build as the island heat.
Well, Bruni, Colaninho, bow 97, the Italian duo, really coming into form on day 3 of the Star Sailors League final here in Nassau. Right behind them, Philip Buell, the young laser sailor with Marcus Coy, German team.
Nice jibe there. Croatia. In the series, and needs a good race to raise his spirits.
Here we're looking really from the front runners all the way back through the fleet, an angle we haven't seen, and there they go.
So it's that rhythmic motion. We've talked about it nearly every day of the coordination between the helmsman, Francesco Bruni, as they come down. Fernando Colaninho up at the mast, looking ahead, just assisting by pulling the mast to windward. But it's about the crew and the skipper working in harmony. Francesco Bruni, I think he's loving this. He's enjoying these lighter conditions, I think, today, Digby. And he went into today, he was back a little bit, but certainly had a good first race. And I think if he can hang in where he is, he's going to jump up right up into contention for that top 11 that'll go through tomorrow night for the semi-finals.
Well, Francesco, he's done 3 Olympic campaigns and was with the Luna Rossa Challenge America's Cup campaigns in 2003, 2007. Skippered the Azzurra team in 2009 and 2010. Artemis Racing this year. Now he's off back with Luna Rossa Prada, running their campaign for the America's Cup down in New Zealand, and a real treat for us to have him here.
Yeah, well, and Francesco, again, he was saying their America's Cup team, their intention is to have a full national team, all Italians on board, and he's been given at this stage the really privileged role to be announced as a skipper, to lead that sailing team for Prada.
And they have a strong field, the Italians. I mean,
without a doubt. No, without a doubt.
They're great sailors.
I think the Italians will be a real force to win the Challenger Series. Mind you, Dennis, your old club, New York Yacht Club, what do you think?
I think that they have the money, which is a lot different than when I was racing for them. So, you know, having Amway as the main guy, they'll have enough money. And then Terry Hutchinson, the team leader, has made some good choices with the design. He has hired some nice New Zealand talent as well to join his team. So they look to me like they're off to a strong start. I'd say the weaker teams at this point have been handicapped. I'm just guessing. Ben Amesley, you haven't heard much from him. Maybe they don't have the money. Maybe that's why they haven't seen the announcements and the crew hiring. It's all, you know, he who has the gold makes the rules.
Okay. Well, as we do have Mr. America's Cup, I think it's perfectly justifiable to talk about that for a little minute. But back to our race number 8 at the Star Sailors League finals here in Nassau. And it is indeed Francesco Bruni with Nando Colaninho.
He's got a good lead
on all cylinders, leading this fleet ahead of their Italian compatriots. Negri and Lambertegui, Mendelblatt and Fati are in the mix, as are Szabo. Finally, George Szabo with Eduardo Natucci. Finally, the American-Italian duo coming into play in the light airs that George Szabo loves so much.
Well, this could play out for Bruni here, because the group behind him are really compressed, and so they start fighting each other and influencing each other. If Francesco Bruni can just get a little bit more bow forward. He has the ability, Dennis, to maybe just make a bit of a jump at this bottom mark.
I don't think they're going to have much pressure on him. It looks to me like he has a real nice lead. Looks like more than 25 times 70 feet, something like that. This lead's really grown since the top mark. When what Digby said, what six boat lengths. I think they're further ahead now.
Well, interestingly, on virtual, we are seeing Mendelblatt and Fati taking a very, very different line to Bruni, Colaninho, Negri, Lambertenghi, and Buell and Coy on their own game. So this is going to be pretty fun when they get down to this gate.
Again, it's about, you know, leverage can be your friend or your enemy. And by Mendelblatt, we see out to one side, and Buell, he's not really out there down on that right-hand side. He's pretty well looking at ley line, but Mendelblatt, can he get back across? Robert Scheidt, you can see coming across on starboard as well. They will compress into the bottom mark.
Well, here visually we will see them compress. Here is Mark Mendelblatt, Robert Scheidt in the same frame. That lineup is really pretty much the battle for second, third and fourth.
Scheidt trying to break the overlap there. I think he's done it.
Let's pan left a little bit. And there we see bow 87, Robert Scheidt.
He's moving through. He's coming through the fleet again. He was a bit deep, but he is really coming through the fleet.
He's fat. He's so good downwind. He's the best sailor in the world downwind.
Round the bottom gate now, our leaders, Bruni, Colaninho, taking the right-hand gate. Right behind them, the next Italian team, Negri and Lambertenghi. And that's the two Italians around. Big bunch up. The next bunch with Zabero and Natucci, bow 2, just getting ahead of Mendelblatt and Fati on the other side, the other gate. Scheidt is going for the left.
That's a bad one there for
getting pushed
George
out.
Sabo. Look, he had his jib wrapped around the forestay. He's got no foot. The batten, top batten's not flicking through.
Oh, Dennis.
It's going to cost him the series.
Oh, it's still twisted.
Roller furling is just what you don't need.
Well, the corners, there are the passing lanes in the corners, and we can see there George Szabo was in there in a good position, but the manoeuvre was not clean, and it's going to be costly.
We'll come back to that in a mo. If you missed that first time, like I did, I was looking at the other mark and looking at Scheidt going around, deciding
it wasn't pretty. Digby, it wasn't pretty. You didn't miss anything.
All right. Now, Pouquet's got his little red flag out, his handkerchief. He's not happy about somebody or something. Let's hear. Let's up the audio.
Rumbling with Mendel's. Okay, our lane is kind of cleared up if we want to go this way.
See, there's not much wind, Digby. You see how loose the upper backstay is? So they're trying to make the headstay have a little more sag, a little more power.
Everybody clear it out. Probably should be caged in here. Yes, right? Let's try to get this bucket moving.
Wind now for the ball.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not looking around. Get the clock fixed. It's a big header, right? Once everyone's 10 more degrees, okay, jib in.
Shifty.
Hike. It is a big righty.
Big righty.
KRW tactical.
It's the old decision, though, isn't it? Big righty. Is it going to go some more and looking for pressure?
He needs some help, so
no, he didn't.
Attack and get back to the middle of the fleet. But I think he's looking for better than that. You know, he won a couple of races yesterday.
No way.
He liked the pace of that.
There's no way they did it, sir.
He's thinking. A lot of communication with Paul. Let's get this bucket moving. I don't think that's going to be going in the press release tonight, perhaps.
We were halfway around the mark when
Oh, great stuff.
Well,
of course,
the only guy here is Augie.
The issue he had there is he had a boat to windward, and I think it was George Zabo. And if he had attacked early,
Xavier Rohard,
was
I
it
think,
Rohard?
Frenchman,
And
yeah.
if you tack and they're liable to bounce you, you know, and then you end up doing 2 tacks. So it's about managing, racecourse management again.
Okay, we can cut to virtual very quickly, and we see where Paul, how far out on the right he is going.
Ooh, he's out there.
He's well out there. Rohart Ponso just tacked away. Bruni Colaninho, meanwhile, commanding the middle of this pack with Negri and Lambertenghi favouring that middle controlling position. Dennis, tactically, where would you want to be on the course right now?
Mark Mendelblatt knows this course very, very well. He's done so well here. I notice he's still bought into the left, so I think the left's got potential.
Like it's been all week. You know, it's a 60-40 deal. 60% of the time, maybe 70% of the time, the left hand is strong. Anything out of the right is, and we did see one out of the right yesterday for Paul Kayard, right at the top of a beat for him to take that lead.
Won the race for him.
So now Bruni and Lambertenghi here with Francesco Bruni and his crewman Nando Colaninho. Now they are moving across to cover the guys over on the left-hand side. Really smart. You can see why he's one of the top tacticians in the world.
I think he's really jumped away. He got into that position as being, a good little lead, and now he's capitalised on that, and he's broken away from the body of the fleet, and he's working the middle left of the course, just working the wind shifts and the little pressure gradients when they come up and down. Dennis, the thing I noticed with Bruni in the previous race, they were sheeting a little bit looser than the other teams. Their jib was a little bit rounder in the foot, looking for speed forward as opposed to high mode.
It could have been they had the lead forward on the jib and making it a little rounder on the foot, but they could still trim the top of it hard.
But certainly their setup was a little bit easier in the bottom third of the jib than certainly Mark Mendelblatt.
Usually the sails, going back to the sails, you have the main and jib from the same sailmaker. But I noticed that Paul Kayard, he's mixing and matching. He doesn't have all Quantum or all Doyle. So I think that's interesting, because usually you're working with one sailmaker and they help you. But if you have both, how do you know what information they're really sharing with you?
Well, Shirley Robertson is on the TV catamaran out there, and those guys are right next to Paul Kayard on the right-hand side of the track. We've been chatting about Paul. Virtually, we can move from the leaders to the right-hand side of the track. Shirley, what can you update us with?
Well, when you've got an onboard camera and Paul Kayard, I think we're a bit redundant, aren't we? I'm really surprised, but I'm not really surprised. He's a good talker, and he's he's talking all the time with his crew. He sailed all the way from the mark, in a right-hand header, and then got lifted. So I haven't got great hopes for Paul Kayard. He's tacked now, and he's right back into the middle of the pack. And I think that was an error. He carried on for clean air, and we heard him saying, let's get this bucket rumbling, and perhaps too much focus on getting rumbling and not just actually playing the shifts. If in doubt, keep it simple. The left-hand side of the course looks great, and we see Bruni. My goodness, I think he's fitted an engine today. He's off like a rocket, and has certainly got something extra. Whether it's, I still think if we get a little bit of left breeze, then it just pays to be over on that shore, and the more you go, the better it gets. But they've been smart, haven't they, Mendelblatt, and also Bruni. They've played the shifts, they've kept it simple, but often, and I'm sure Dennis will back me up on this, if you've got a little bit of pace, you're a tactical genius.
Thank you, Shirley. On the water, looking with eyes and ears, Shirley vision, as we like to call it now. I think Shirley termed that one. That's great. And now we're having a look at your countrymen, Peter, Hamish Pepper and Craig Monk, just going through a little tack there. They're in about sort of 14th position, and Hamish America's Cup. You can talk about Hamish.
Yeah, well, Hamish, he was in the team that defended the America's Cup in Auckland in 2000, and Craig, of course, Craig was with Russell Coutts when they won the America's Cup, and he's a powerhouse. But they've been struggling here. They just felt they haven't been sailing essentially, and they've sailed together a lot, but of late, no, they haven't been, and they've just felt a little bit off the pace. However, like all of the sailors here, they're absolutely loving it, being around the caliber of people that are at this event.
Craig Monk's a big lad. He's another 5 foot wide character. Extraordinary fellow, but so genteel and,
yeah, he's
and polite.
Very nice guy. The other thing down in New Zealand, we don't sail starboats. They're not a class that are used. Any starboat sailing that's gone on has been people like Rod Davis and Don Cowie who have jumped in, or Hamish Pepper and Craig Monk. But really, they've campaigned offshore. But in New Zealand, no starboats. You don't see them out on the harbour. And I think it's a class that would have, I don't know, Dennis, would it have been a tough class to sail in our conditions?
Well, I don't know. You know, the Etchells class out in the eastern suburbs did well at Pine Harbor. It would have been good conditions for a starboat down there. Somehow it just never got to be popular and be the boat to sail. It just never quite got there. But I think they missed out.
Well, Hamish Pepper, well, Star World Champ, actually. I'm just looking through my little stat figures, 2006 to 2009. Hamish Pepper, Star World Champion. So,
yeah, he's got the gold star on his sail, and
he does indeed.
He won that in San Francisco. And yeah, so the pedigree has always been good with Hamish. He's a very intuitive sailor. And of course, Craig, he's won those 2 America's Cups. And he was one of Russell Coutts' really right-hand people in Russell Coutts' heyday, sailing version 5s.
Okay, well, great stuff from the Kiwis, having a good day. As you say, Pete, they've struggled in the championship, been out of the Star for a little while, but it's a real delight to see a Kiwi team here in Nassau for the Star Sailors League final. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, it is still the Italians, Francesco Bruni, Nando Colaninho, with Negri and Lambertenghi. This is a brilliant race for both Italian teams.
Yeah, and they've looked good all day, Negri and Bruni. We all admire the skill of the sailors, especially from Italy. And Dennis, I'm sure you've struck it over the years. Anything in that light to moderate stuff, they really do have that intuitive feel, don't they?
Yes, they certainly do.
Well, there is the race leader, race number 8, Bruni and Colaninho, bow 97. And bow 2 right behind them, a little bit further back, was George Szabo, Eduardo Natucci, not having their best regatta. Szabo and Natucci actually are 2 of the most successful Star Sailors League characters of all time in our Grand Slams. Beautiful tack there by Colaninho and Bruni, really getting their mojo on.
They went into today in 12th position, so they're on the cusp of making that top 11. They had a really strong race in the first one. They're leading this one. This will absolutely leapfrog them up the leaderboard if they can hold on to this race win.
Well, they are. They've got a couple more tacks to do. They're some 350 or so meters towards the top mark. Quite a bit of tactics and strategy left in this leg, Dennis.
Well, this race has not been where one side was better than the other. I mean, first we saw the left look good and the right came good, and now it's a matter of picking the shifts. We saw Paul Caird with a header coming out of there on port tack, but he didn't tack on it. He played the right, and now he's trying to get back to, towards the middle left. So he made a good chance to catch up, but it's been the shifts and the puffs. It hasn't been one side or the other.
Well, there we see the entire fleet spread across, really towards the right-hand side of this racetrack as we look up, like the sailors, towards the top mark. The Italian team, Bruni, Colaninho, really controlling the fleet rather marvellously, in my view, playing the middle and covering the left and the right, keeping those options under their belt. Eivind Melleby, Josh Revkin just in the background there with the Norwegian flag. Fast downwind, but they've not sailed brilliantly and not so happy with themselves. We can see, actually, it's interesting seeing Eivind Melleby, the Norwegian. It's kind of very characteristic hunched view with Josh looking around, feeding information to Eivind, this Norwegian American duo. They are, Dennis, they won the World Championships this year in Denmark, so they're on form, they're on fire. It's a great relationship. They get on well, they sail brilliantly together, but yesterday it was all a bit disastrous, hitting marks and bashing into people at the leeward gate. Okay, so that's the Norwegian-Danish duo. Virtually we could jump, get a little feel for how far we are off that top mark. Bruni Colonino really commanding now, with a nearly 50-metre lead over Negri and Labatangi.
From me, halfway down that leg 2 on the run, they were off, and they got enough leverage, and Negri and Mendelblatt were really fighting with each other, or really dictating terms to each other. And I think Bruni and Colonino, with their very good upwind speed, have really doubled their lead.
Yes, they have. Went from 25 to 51, Peter, as you suggested. So they've done a really nice job up this speed.
Very nice, and their setup it looked good earlier today, and now it's got really light at the top of the course. So I think the game is really on just behind them, for that group behind, and I think Negri and Mendelblatt will be interesting to see how they play as they get into this top mark for the last time.
You know, one factor that might come into play is it looks like it's getting lighter instead of windier out there.
Yep.
And it's possible this could be the last race of the day if the wind doesn't come up. So
I was just thinking that
tomorrow will be a different day.
Yep.
Could be quite a bit more wind. So the factor racing this third race today, or the third race of today's race being the first race tomorrow, can make a big difference because of the wind.
Well, Shirley on the water. A little update from you, Shirley.
Oh, just as Bruni's rounding that first mark, there's a flag up on the official boat here, which means there is no pumping on this final leg of this race.
Thank you, Shell. Well, that means the breeze has dropped below 6 knots.
Under 6 knots, that's cut off as the second boat looks like it's coming in, number 3, and that's
Negri Lambatangi.
Diego Negri, again enjoying the conditions, but close. Mark Mendelblatt coming in on starboard. Be interesting to watch them on this last leg down to the finish.
Round they go, Negri Lambatangi on board with Diego and Sergio. They've got a few boat lengths there over Mendelblatt and Fati, I think.
Mendelblatt's solid though, lighter heavy, he's
totally
solid. There's no weaknesses in his game at all. So we saw him come from 4th to 2nd now on this tricky beat.
And I'm just looking at the overall, if this stays as it is, because Robert Scheidt, remember going into today, was 2 points.
Yep.
We could actually, if positions stay the same, we could see a new leader overall. I think that's Scheidt there going round the mark. No, it's Lars Grail going round, so Robert Scheidt is a little bit deep.
Philip Buell in the mix again. Augie Diaz just heading around. Looks like the Russians getting into all sorts of trouble just under that top mark. Having to go around. Frank Hamas through, another great race for the great Frenchman. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's all sorts of trouble going on there. Just trying to squeeze around that top.
You're not supposed to attack inside that 3 boat length rule. That guy's over that.
And that's Robert Scheidt.
Oh my God, he's going to hit the mark. Oh, he's going to hit that mark.
Oh.
So our overnight leader is in trouble.
He's going to hit that buoy.
Red flags flying.
Oh.
Robert in absolute agony here.
He just hit it.
Trying to get round that thing. Trying not to hook their rudder. Well, penalties for Robert Scheidt and Henry Björning. So they're going to have to bear away and do a little turn. As the Kuznetovic and Jitski pile over the top
maybe
of
they
them.
didn't hit it, eh?
Well, he would know. He was right there. He could have seen.
It would have been millimetre.
Well,
hard for us to know when we're a couple 100 feet away. He would know. And if he hit it, he would have gone around.
He would.
There's
okay, another flag flying. The red flag penalty. Let's go back to that shot if we can, Helen. Back to that shot. Because the umpire there, the jury, just whacked a red flag at somebody. I think it was the Russians, perhaps. I'm not quite sure. But we'll see on the virtual in just a moment. Okay, so bit of drama there at the top. That's a shocker.
He's having a shocker. So in the overall, we keep looking at the overall situation. Robert Scheidt made an error at that top mark, and Dennis Conner, of course, called it. But Robert Scheidt has been penalised. But in the overall game, that is going to play out very nicely for Mark Mendenblack.
Yep. And Henry Björning. So Scheidt went into today top of that leaderboard with just a couple of points. Look at his body language, pretty furious with himself. He's going to be like a fireball hammering downwind. We'll see if he can claw his way ahead of Kuznirovic and Jitski, Merkelbach and Lopez, Gaspic and Sičić. And he's on the attack now.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard road to climb though from this. He's too far back in the pack to see that slight magic work here. He's going to be mad when he gets in here. He'll be doing some extra laps in the pool tonight.
Well,
Digby.
in the big scheme, this is really stacking up to be his drop. His previous worst performance was 11th. I think he's a bit deeper than that, looking at the leaderboard. So Robert Scheidt, very uncharacteristic error at the top mark.
Well, we'll have a very quick look at that incident at the top again of Robert getting into his difficulty. All right, here we go.
The reason that it's
the replay.
I
There's Scheidt just tacking right under that mark. He's got no way on. He's got no momentum.
And then there's a starboard tack boat coming, so he has to tack again, or he'll foul the starboard tack boat. And there's current. He knew he's in trouble right there.
There's the Russians and the Croatians right behind them. Russians getting into big trouble
Dennis,
as a consequence.
You know what? I think he did get round the mark, but I think he got penalised. We could see the flag flying there from, who was it, 99.
Gaspic.
And that was Gaspic. I think Robert Scheidt fouled out at the top mark as opposed to hitting the top mark.
Fair enough.
And the penalty went against him, and then he did his
Same penalty,
turns.
I guess, right?
Same penalty, yes.
Well, back on the downwind leg, live shots. Robert looking behind him, seeing what he can do. And well, there was just a lot of traffic, basically.
But Digby, that's that classic case. We've talked about that top mark triangle, the cone, and once you get right into the cone in that critical position close to the mark, you don't have a lot of options. And even, the greats of this world, Robert Scheidt, got caught out there by a starboard tacker.
Okay, so now we are on the final leg. We've just had a confirmation from the committee boat that this is the final race of the day, as you predicted, Dennis. So this is the final race of today. There'll be 2, possibly 3 more races tomorrow to complete the round-robin series before the big finale, the quarters, the semis, the final on Saturday.
The reason, Digby, that, as you know, makes that such a big difference is that the top guy gets to go through
the
leap to the end. I mean, basically. Yeah. So they all would love to win this elimination series.
Yeah, because the winners of this qualifying rounds, the 4 days of qualifying, leaps right to the final, and whoever's second gets a leap to the semis. But for the rest of the guys in the middle of the overalls, it's all about survival, and it's really starting to get a little bit crunchy now, Peter.
Well, I'm just quickly looking at the points, and really the 2 teams that are fighting for that automatic entry to the final, Robert Scheidt and Mark Mendelblack. And what's happened here, this will be Robert Scheidt's drop. He's going to now have to carry an 11th. It's all there for Mark Mendelblack now. If he can have a solid day tomorrow, boat on boat with Scheidt, he's in the golden position to go straight through.
He's cruising.
No, he's not cruising because he's just really steady and rock solid. And I don't think we've talked about Mendel Black through the regatta being in a difficult situation tactically and with the rules. He talks about sailing quite conservatively, and he's fast, but very rarely. He's one of those guys that keeps the old nose clean.
I guess you'd like to be the one that gets to go through straight to the finals, but last year we saw that the guy that did that had a little speed problem in the final race because he didn't get to sail in the semi-final race. Remember that?
Exactly.
So he didn't get to tune up and see which side of the
course was better. Well, they were on the racetrack tuning away.
But
I
they
think
still
it was
wasn't the
Negri
same.
and Lambertenghi.
Yeah.
But then they hit the final and they just weren't in match-ready mode.
They weren't ready. So it's a hard call. Of course, you want to get there because you get the guaranteed money and you get the chance to win the big prize, but still, the overall, maybe it's better to have that single final race and
here's the gossip,
under your
Dennis.
belt.
Here's the gossip for you, the inside track, because after the first final, we didn't have this arrangement, and I think it was Robert Scheid himself who said, "Hey man, if I win, if I shouldn't there be an advantage for winning the first 4 days?" So. Now he might be regretting saying that.
But how often you think of the World Match Race Tour when if you go to the final through to you pick your opponent. How many times do you pick your opponent and then get your clock cleaned? And this is a bit the same in some ways. And I'm with Dennis. Maybe it's an advantage just to be racing, keep racing. If you're sitting on the sitting on the stringer, sitting on the dockside, watching the others race, knowing straight through the final
on the bench.
It's an interesting one. But who are we back with?
Negri and Lambertenghi in second position, some 60 or so metres behind the leaders, Bruni and Colaninho. And as you say, Peter, a super day for the Italian specialists from Lake Garda, that beautiful sailing destination, one of the most beautiful in the entire planet, where a lot of people go and train for their Olympic classes, including Robert Scheid, who we've just been talking about. He'll sail a couple of hours upwind and a couple of hours downwind. He trains there and lives there. But these guys, Diego Negri, Sergio Lambertenghi, they work so hard before this Star Sailors League final.
And it shows. It really does show, for my mind, that obviously they enjoy these conditions. But it comes as no mistake that the two Italian teams are right out there and they're enjoying the conditions. And for me, Diego Negri has been rock solid, and he will be a name that we keep talking about, I'm sure, when we get into the
It's good to see Xavier Rojar having a good race. He's the class guy. He's done a lot for the Star Sailors League. He's looked upon one of the leaders of the Star class, and so I'm happy to see him doing a little better. I think he's a little stronger when it's windy.
Yes.
Well, he's a big guy.
Both of them.
So he's maybe more confident. So I'm glad to see him having a good race here in a modest.
Well, here's the one, the team that's really making my day, which was the German team of Bühl and Coy. They did so well yesterday, and now look at this absolute stunning performance in 5th position there on race number 8. That's going to see them solidly within the zone to progress to the final day, the quarter semis and finals.
They should make it, Digby.
Yeah, I think they'll make it too. And I'm just looking at the board there. Where's Ben Saxton? He's down, look, just behind 10th or so.
11th.
So really that's a keeper for him, because
bad.
again, he's still in that. He'll still be in the top 10, but he's going. He'll still have to be very wary of tomorrow. If we have 2 races tomorrow, they'll be fighting it out for the magic top 11.
Paul Kayard sailed well this afternoon. He was well down and made a nice comeback.
He has. He was down the pan is a bit of an exaggeration, but he was not in a great spot around that leeward gate.
He's he's obviously got the experience, knows what's up, doesn't get down on himself, so it's not surprising he's doing well.
And Paul Kayard, Phil Trinter, this is going to see them solidly in that top 10. Once they've crossed the line, all the boats have crossed the line, we'll have the provisional overalls, which will be rather interesting, and I suspect we'll be seeing these guys bumping themselves up into contention to survive into Saturday. Stunning performance by Francesco Bruni and Nando Colaninho.
Well, they'll be the talk of the day. 2 races, and they were 12th. They're going to be rocketing up the leaderboard. It'll just be a matter of how high they get in terms of the overall.
Okay, all right. Well, we are down towards the closing stages of race number 8 of the Star Sailors League final in Nassau in the Bahamas. A wonderful place to be racing in December. Very cold in the northern climes, and a big shout out to everybody in the cold and northern climes. I hope you're snuggled in and enjoying some classic racing with some classic names. So if we just chop to virtual, we'll get just a bit of geography, see how far off these guys are towards that finish line. Not far at all. Bruni and Colaninho are holding off the charge from Mendelblatt and Fatigue, just with Negri and Lambertenghi coming in on a good angle. Hey, there's a race on for second place here, Peter.
I think that's probably the talking point between Mendelblatt and Negri.
Okay, so a win for Francesco Bruni and Nando Colaninho from Italy, improving day after day, race after race. Fabulous result. Back slaps, high fives, big hugs for this Italian team. Fair play, well played. Coming in second, this is going to be close. Who is going to come through that line? It's almost going to be a photo finish, I think, as the next 2 come in from right of picture. Here we go, it is Mendelblatt and Fatigue. Oh, those maestros finishing in second place, just ahead of Diego Negri, Sergio Lambertenghi with George Szabo and Eduardo Natucci ghosting within a boat length into 4th position. Further back up the track, I think Philipp Buell will start to see the German team of Buell and Coy. I hope, but just ahead of them, we're looking at Jonathan Laubert, neck and neck with Philipp Buell. I don't know who's going to get this one. It could be Philipp, 84, the German team. Oh, a nice hot angle, just taking the French team. Brilliant result for Philipp Buell and Marcus Coy over Jonathan Laubert and Fabien Pic, who are just ahead of Lars Grail, Sam Conchalves, with Augie Diaz and Austin Sperry coming in. Here we're looking at Paul Kayard, consistent Paul with Phil Trinter, almost neck and neck with Xavier Rohart, Pierre Alexis Ponceau through that line, followed by Mateusz Kuznedovic and Dominik Shitsky. Oh, I don't know who got that one. Ivan Melleby, Josh Revkin may just have clipped them there, but that was a close one there. And our New Zealand friends, Craig Monk, Hamish Pepper, flying through, I think, for their best result of the regatta so far. Nice day for the Kiwis, followed by Ben Saxton and Stevie Mitchell. Ivan Gaspic, Ante Sitchik just ahead of Freddie Loof and Bruno Prada. And I couldn't see who was the other side, but here we go. Robert Scheid, Henry Björning. That penalty was terribly expensive at the top mark for those guys. Kamas and Struby are in the mix. Kamas could be within reaching distance when we get to the overall scores after this of making the final day. We'll see. It'll be a pretty remarkable comeback after day 1. His first day in the Star. Let's put it into perspective. And here are some of our back markers coming through the finish. Our Russian friends, Georgy Sheduko, Alexander Zibin. Great to have Russian team here in the final. Facundo Alezza, Juan Pablo Engelhardt from Argentina, who just performed so well yesterday. We enjoyed watching them tremendously. Just coming ahead of Loic Piron and Monsieur Pascal Rambo. So that's pretty much our fleet. Well, let's go to our overall results. What does that mean? Well, it's a significant boost for Mendelblatt and Fatih at the top of that leaderboard. Look at their results. A first 6 dropping their 16th, and the rest consistent glory. 22 points, they are the team to beat, and they are really beginning to stamp their authority on this championship. Scheid and Björning from starting 2 points ahead earlier this morning, ahead of Mendelblatt and Fatih, are now dropping down to second with 31 points. Negri and Lambertenghi will be pretty pleased with that today. A third and a fourth. That is great consistency for the Italians. Kayard and Trinta 14th and 9th today, but that sees them in 4th overall. And I'm never going to say comfortable, but it's a good position to go into the final day of the round robins to survive through to the finals on Saturday. Here is the story of the day, and a story perhaps of yesterday. Philip Buell and Marcus Coy, a 9th and a 5th, 49 points in 5th. Our first VIP guest in that top 10, and a super performance there on race number 8 by Philip Buell. Francesco Bruni and Colaninho, a bullet there, sees them in 6th, which is going to boost their morale as they come in towards the clubhouse. Rohard and Ponceau, reasonably consistent in 7th, but they've got a bit of work on tomorrow, as do Loof and Prada. Freddie Loof and Bruno Prada. Grail and Conchalvis, Torben Grail, as dear Dennis has said, one of the greatest in the entire sport of sailing, with Sam Conchalvis in 9th spot. Danger Zone, Paul Goodison, Fritjof Clean in 10th, the 20th and the 21st. Their 2 worst results of the regatta so far, so coming slightly off the boil. So they'll be coming into the clubhouse thinking, right, what are we going to do tomorrow? We've got a lot on. We're in that little grey area in the middle there where we're in danger of getting flicked out. Saxton, Ben Saxton, Stevie Mitchell in 11th. Meleby and Revkin have moved up the leaderboard. They'll be pleased with that. Kuznetovic and Jitsky have moved down the leaderboard. They won't be pleased with that. Zabo and Natucci possibly got themselves in contention for survival in the competition. Unfortunately, Aletza and Engelhard are in a little bit of trouble dropping down, but great results from Frank Camis and Mark Struby, and the rest is history, as they say. Now, I believe we have a replay of the entire race. Marvellous. Let's have a look at the highlights of race number 8. Those are the highlights of our final race. Shirley Robertson, you are on with Francesco and Nando Colaninho, their first bullet of the regatta. These guys surely are pretty happy about that.
Oh, I just asked Nando if he was hot because of the weather, and he said, no, it's the stress. It's been quite a day.
So it's not easy to be in front of this kind of fleet, so it's stressed. I think it's the normal thing that can happen in a so special and big event like SSL.
It looked today that you had just something extra. You had wings today as the rust finally gone off.
We had foils. No, foils probably today would have not helped us star. But anyway, no, we were pretty fast, especially upwind. And the downwind, we were going pretty fast, especially without the Oscar flag. when the pumping starts, we lose a little bit, which is normal. I mean, the guys here have more experience in the fin, in the star, and everybody knows how to pump and roll these boats a little bit better than we do. But we were lucky today that the wind was light enough to have a couple of downwinds without the pumping, and even in the last race with the first downwind with the Oscar flag, we did well. So we have to get some confidence, and we need to be strong tomorrow. We have 3 important races tomorrow.
Today was the day for the Italians. I mean, we saw the flag up the front of the fleet the whole time. You know, why was that? Why do you think they're so good in these conditions?
So for us, I think that we just paid missing star for many years, especially for Francesco, but we just take a couple of days for training and racing, but you know,
coming together.
Everything is coming. We just tried in the past races to 1-1, finally arrived.
I mean, today, the start of today, you were outside that magic top 10. After today, it's a different story. How pivotal was today?
Well, it's in light wind. It's very hard to pick one side, and we actually, I'm very happy with our strategy today, because we didn't pick one side. We came through the middle, and our risk-reward ratio was really good. So I'm very happy with our strategy of the day, where to start, how to approach the upwind, and execution of the start and the upwind speed was the key for us today. We were very close to win 2 races. The last little piece of the downwind on the first race was not for us. Too much pumping, and we lost the rhythm there.
We can tell it's all coming back. Just before we go, we've been talking a lot in the commentary about your new appointment. You're going to lead the nation into the next America's Cup. You know, how pleased are you to be heading up your national team?
Well, obviously it's something new. We haven't done any press release or anything, but everybody knows that I will be with Luna Rossa. It's amazing. I think the thing I like the most about the approach of our next campaign is the fact that Patrizio Bertelli wants to have a full Italian sailing team, and that gives me a little extra push, because if we do well as a full Italian team, I know that all the Italians and the nation will be behind us.
Well, we look forward to watching that unravel. Well done today. It was fab watching you. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to the Italian team, Francesco Bruni, Nando Colaninho, with their first win of the regatta. Superb, absolutely superb. And awesome, Pete, to see that, to hear from the man himself that they're going to have an all-Italian team for the next America's Cup. I know we're on the Star Sailors, but, you know, we've got sailors from the Olympics, the America's Cup, the Volvo Ocean Race, and it's a celebration of sailing, amongst others, and sailors. So that's a fairly cool bit of news.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love the America's Cup. It's been such a big part of my life, and that nationality component to me is fundamental to the America's Cup. And New York Yacht Club, I hope they turn up with a strong American team, as they will, and it's great to hear.
And the Brits with a British team.
Absolutely, that's what it's about.
Yeah, Kiwis with a Kiwi team.
It's fantastic, and
the Swedes with a Swedish team.
Francesco will do Francesco will do a good job down there. He sailed there before. He knows what it's like, and yeah, it'll be great. Be great.
Okay, well, we have some stats. We've been doing a little bit of analysis over the racing today, and we're just going to show you some statistics of the boats through racing today. Is this just the last race? Yeah, just the final race. So have a look at this. Distance sail. This is interesting, Pete. Bruni Colaninho sailing pretty much the shortest amount of distance. Just with Negri and Lambertenghi. Longest, Grail, Conchalves. On that chart, Kayard and Trenta, Rohard and Ponceau. So it just goes to show, Kathleen.
Yeah, I think we saw Negri and Lambertenghi throughout today and also yesterday going up more the middle of the course and then tacking on the shifts, where we saw Mendelblatt and Fatih, and especially Grail, really heading out to those corners. And in most cases, they were going for a geographic shift or a little bit more pressure. So when you sail to the pressure, you sail more distance, but you're going faster.
Average speeds now. Very incremental, minute differences between these, Pete. But Bruno and Colinino, you've been saying today, you think they've got some really good speed, but the best boat speeds were from Szabo and Natucci. And Mendelblatt and Fatih almost level pegging with Buell and Coy, Lobar and Peak, Grail and Conchalves, Diasperi, Keard, Rohart, far behind. What can you tell from that stat?
Well, Digby, it's like all this stuff. You look at an average speed, and this is an average. It's an indicator of what's going on. What that tells me, the boats are very even, but it's how you use that speed. Are you using it to push forward, or are you trying to go a little bit slower and higher to, to VMG to the mark? So, look, it is a stat, but the way I see speeds is how did you use that speed to get to the next puff or the next wind shift?
Okay. Well, now before I start wrapping up and selling the racing tomorrow, which is going to be rather good, I'm just going to sell our little competition a little bit more because I love it. I love it. This beautiful bib, Star Sailors League bib, which has been signed by all these icons and superstars of the sailing world, with your Camasses and your Peyrons and your Grails and your, you name it, they're all here, your Paul Chaos. Now you can win that by sending a little picture on Instagram. We've got a few characters have already posted, but you post them at Star Sailors League, hashtag watch the finals. So go on Instagram. Here we go. This is my favorite so far. I'm loving that one. Yeah, hey, Tommy Soap. He's loving that. Uh-oh. Not bad. Paola. Oh, I think that's Josh Revkin's dad, Doctor. Surgeon. Oh, no, that's a bit cheaty. Not sure about that one. But send us your pictures at the end of tomorrow's fun, towards the finale of the first 4 days of racing of the Star Sailors League. We'll award this amazing bib to the best picture that we see.
And it's washed too.
And it's perfectly clean. Well, one would never wash that ever. It hangs on the wall, Kathleen. It's a treasure. Value. You can't put a price on that sort of thing. Do join us again tomorrow, because we're going to have 2, probably 3, if they want to complete the 11 race round robin qualifiers. They'll be running 3 races tomorrow. We're not quite sure what the wind is going to be. It could be lighter. We're not quite sure, but they will intend to race 3 races, starting again at 11 a.m. local time. That's 5 hours behind Greenwich Mean Time, or UTC as the modern people like to call it. And into Saturday's grand finale with the quarterfinals, semis and finals, and the lion's share of the US dollar 200,000 prize money pot. So thank you to our technical team here in the Nassau Club, everyone on the water, Shirley, our commentator, Dennis for jumping in. It's been an interesting day. It's a fun competition, great spirit here and camaraderie with the Star Sailors League, and we'll see you tomorrow.